Good evening, everybody, or afternoon, morning, or midnight, depending on where you are on the globe, or in the globe, whatever we call it. Welcome back once again for round number 6 of the Ventauri Pro Series here for the inaugural season. We have reached almost the halfway point of this championship. We've had some really exciting races so far, but tonight we return to Europe after a box office race in Suzuka a week ago. We head to Spa-Francorchamps, where hopefully we'll see more of the same banging circuit, especially since they updated it a few games ago. And delighted to say, commandeering commentary corner once more, Tom Squared squeaming our way in for one final time this season. Myself, Tom Wilkinson, Tom Knight alongside me. TK, how are you doing on this wonderful Tuesday?
I'm doing very well. Very much looking forward to getting going with this series, but slightly, sad and melodramatic that it is going to be our last one together, at least in VPS. But let's go and make it a banger. Belgium should be some fantastic racing. It really opens up these cars, but there is going to be a lot of lift and coast for these drivers as they try and customize to the battery usage.
Yes, got to be some very tactical driving going on. The threat of rain usually is here for Spa. Still not 100% sure what the status of the game is, although I had rain in a league race yesterday. So maybe we've got rain back on. I'm not sure. Maybe it's fixed. Maybe it isn't. We know how this usually works. And I should say as well, the divorce in Tom Squared camp has definitely not been, it's not been agreeable, and it's not been, what's the word I'm looking for? That they normally describe it as. Not magnanimous. That's definitely not what it is. I can't remember the word. Unanimous? A unanimous decision? Amicable.
There we go.
That's the one. It's not been an amicable divorce, everybody. So
it's not a complete divorce. It's just, we're stepping aside for other projects. We'll be back together at some point. I'm almost certain of it.
Okay. We'll keep that stall up there. But let's have a look firstly at the championship standings, because we are missing the championship leader, Joris Krozen, who took another big step away from the pack, 21 points clear of Tycho Hardy, who has been so consistent so far this season. And then we have a bit of a drop-off. Angelo D'Ortenzio once again not here this week. Liam Stevens just 4 points further back. And then a big clump of drivers in that sort of mid-pack just behind the four that have usually been batting it out at the front. Gal, Clappenbort, Bison, Rapassa, Sabrino and Alves, your top 10, with Otis Lawrence, who joined us a week ago, taking a very impressive victory in Suzuka, just beating out Joris Krozen in a last lap dash. But won't be here this weekend with other duties to fulfill this week, I should say. And speaking of this week, let's have a look at who is going to be piloting these cars for the action that is taking place, because once again, we have some new names stepping in, along with some familiar faces as well. The likes of Tudor Presscan and Florian Fancelter returning for McLaren. For the first time, we've got Declan Barrett in the Red Bull, Dirk Vermont in the Racing Bulls going down as well, Aaron Raminguez in the Williams, and then Ben Sabo-Conyi in the Aston Martin. Those are the 4 new drivers that have jumped in, with a couple stepping back, but it's still a really strong grid, and there's definitely an opportunity for somebody, TK, to maybe make a run from somewhere.
Absolutely right. Spa's one of those circuits that is going to be really critical for a lot of drivers to manage the battery well. The long run down through Blanchimont, down towards the bus stop chicane is going to be such a critical moment to make sure you've got about 70 to 90% of the battery charged as you make your way down through that middle sector. So we're going to see a lot of maybe brave overtakes where you traditionally wouldn't, knowing that drivers are going to be compromised heading into that third and final sector. I think it is going to be some thrilling racing. Qualifying, of course, completely different ballpark. It's as much push lap as you can. Again, that middle sector really going to be that compromised one, recharging the battery and getting themselves ready for the final sector. But there's a lot of good drivers on here, some exceptional talent, and I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Especially because we're missing the top 4 in the championship. Yeah. So that's going to be a fascinating dynamic. Shannon Clay here again, this time in the Haas. We've got Elias Tomasetta also jumping back in for Aston Martin. But we're looking at the likes of Tamas Gal probably as one of the favourites. Alejandro Luero has been in contention to take a podium, maybe even the win in both of the last 2 races, but has suffered some maladies in the closing stages. Contact a couple of times a week ago in Suzuka, a puncture late on in Austria a fortnight ago as well, or 3 weeks ago in fact, because we had a break week in between. So we'll be looking to try and right some of those wrongs. And Francesco Largo also back in there for the Alpine squadron. But if we head over to the calendar, I think it's important to see what we've still got on the menu to sink our teeth into for this season. We're in that second block of four races in a cluster together, 2 break weeks between round 4 and 5, which has already happened because it's in the past, and between rounds 8 and 9. Bahrain in a week's time will be interesting. Then we've got Kota, and then a 4-race run, broken record because we say it every week, that's going to be anything but what you can guarantee is it will be absolute chaos.
Yeah, it's going to be a thrilling end to the season, one that really is going to encourage our drivers to try and push their cars to the absolute limits. And I'm sure as we head to Brazil and Abu Dhabi, the circuits, luckily for them, start to open up a little bit more. I think Jeddah's can be one of those kind of joker tracks. It'll either go really well for some drivers or it will leave them feeling a little bit sour, should I say. But then, of course, Mexico, really open circuit. Again, one that's going to drain the battery on that incredibly long run down towards turn 1. So there's going to be a lot of tricks to play for them, a lot for our drivers to try and understand and navigate. But of course, they are the best of the best, so they've got one job to do.
We'll reach the halfway point of the season once we cross over this 6th Grand Prix in Belgium. But the second half of the season will be interesting, with certain leagues starting up once again, with drivers and even commentators being stolen away from the action, as TK goes just with a look that says tail between your legs a little bit there, but it doesn't matter, everybody. We're going to have a fun championship, and I think we're going to have a fun race tonight at Spa as well, because we're in qualifying. If you are new, we do run full qualifying, Q1, Q2, and Q3, followed by a 50% race, which is 22 laps at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And for qualifying as well, we have the multiplayer cars in the offing, because it is so close. Those milliseconds mattering critically for a lot of drivers to get through into the next part of qualifying. So we are trying to eliminate any advantages that could be had for certain people, because of the way that this game works. The cars are unfortunately, and haven't been for probably ever, identical when you put them on identical. But Declan Barrett has broken the trend. Usually we see people venture out on the intermediates. They've gone straight out on a set of medium tyres for a 46.5.
I guess it makes more sense, knowing there is that potential for the lobby resets. They don't necessarily need to hold on to the set of the medium compounder tyres. They can use them in this practice session. They can use them to gain some accustomed to the circuits. They run up down towards the Lecom chicane. But of course, everybody will be running on soft compounder tyres when we get into, I don't want to call it proper qualifying, because it seems to undermine everything they're doing at the moment, but proper qualifying.
Yeah, well, once we reach the proper runs at the end of the session, Q2 usually a little bit more as to what we would expect. And of course, we will see Bernd Mailander at some point, as we always do, venturing up, because the safety car is turned off because, well, safety car, that's all you really need to know. So yes, Bernd likes to make an appearance in qualifying because we ban him from competing in the race. And this almost looks like a bit of a race run, doesn't it, from Declan Barrett at the moment on these medium tyres, pounding around. His first sector was almost identical to his personal best. Got a decent amount of ERS still in the tank too as we head up towards Stavolo.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and probably makes a lot of sense if they haven't had time to practice over the course of the week and they get to a Tuesday afternoon and go, oh, you know what, I haven't really done much race practice at the moment, so they have the opportunity to go again. We've seen few drivers already calling out Declan Barrett in the drivers' chat, with Angelo Dortenzio most notably saying, doing race practice in quali, pace can't be that bad, can it? Well, fighting words from Dortenzio, who are they even on the calendar? They're not even on the grid today. No. Fighting
words from somebody who's not here. So laying down the gauntlet with nothing that can be thrown back. Do we improve? No. We're within a tenth of the personal best. Do we keep pounding around? We will wait and see, because we obviously have a bit of a lull. And this is the first time as well this season nobody set times on the intermediate tyre. So we literally have absolutely nothing to go off heading into the runs as we approach halfway already through Q1.
It's that weird element of it being Spa, it being that long circuit where they don't feel they have enough time to get out, do an out lap, hot lap, and in lap. It's the same reason why you don't see them do an in lap in real life, just because of how long the circuit is and the amount of time it would take. Barrett is going quicker through the first sector and undisputedly is purple through the first. And according to my telemetry, somehow Florian has gone purple in the first sector, even though he's not even out on a lap at the moment. I think the telemetry is really not liking it, because he said he's done a 31.4 in the first sector.
Wow, that is impressive pace from somebody who's currently nestled in the garage. Lovely stuff. I mean, my telemetry is just broken and my brain's just broken as well, because I've just seen that Nottingham Forest are paying £50 million for Liam Delap. What's going on, everybody? Game is absolutely gone. That's why we focus on motorsport rather than football, because my goodness me.
There's a lot of silly money in whatever sport you follow. I think that's the easiest way to try and describe it. Barrett's still going quicker actually through the second sector, 10th and some change up as they made their way down towards Blanchimont for hopefully what will be the final time, because at some point they've got to make their way in and go for starting their quali laps. We have a few drivers making their way out at the moment. Ben, Steven, Conrad, and of course Lucas Beisner as well up in third. So they are making their way out pit road. Elia Tomasetto as well making their way out to start their proper runs. And note, Declan Barrett decides he wants to go again here. Maybe it could be a 1 or 2 run attempt in Q1. 46.362 for what will be, I believe, the Cadillac car. And again, just happy, playing around, not necessarily worrying about actual qualifying runs at the moment.
Yeah, and finds a little bit of pace there. 46.5, 46.6, then dips to a 46.3 as everybody now begins to venture out on the soft compound tyre for the first time. Steven Varzo, who has, as we mentioned a couple of times, one of the better self-created liveries, backing away with what I think might be a Mercedes there, although it is hard to tell from the T-cam. I think I can maybe just get a glimpse of some teal, perhaps down the side. Yes, it is Conrad Bohm, who is a Mercedes driver for this season. Mercedes engine cars, or would be if we're running the 26 machinery. But we spoke about this last week, didn't we? Had just the increase, and drivers have been starting to put a little bit more effort into their multiplayer car. I think Bohm's is actually pretty darn decent as well, that Mercedes replica livery.
I agree. Probably one of the better ones we've seen over the course of this season so far. Of course, the multiplayer car's been bought in, which does give us a little bit of trouble to identify the cars that make their way around. The colour's somewhat skewed, but of course the likes of Florian, who has made a good attempt at making the McLaren and has kept it mainly orange, allows us to try and identify that. But it will be Conrad Bohm, the first driver out to start a lap, down towards the source. Tom, why don't you run us through a lap properly under qualifying conditions?
Slam the anchors on, crank on the steering lock to get the front end to bite as well, hoping that you've got the right tyre temperatures, that they can respond to your input, and then you bury the throttle for about 25 seconds as you blast up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Not quite as fearsome as it once was, keeping it locked in 8th gear there as we enter onto the Kemmel straight. We'll see what the first sector split time is. Not too much to try and base this one off, apart from the medium runners with Barrett still out there. But a 30.9 as it looked like maybe just mid-corner heading into the Lake of chicane. The back of the car just complaining ever so slightly. Clean run though through turn 7, 8 and then through turn number 9 and downhill braking into Rivage of turn number 10. Bit of a lazy corner, clumsy corner as well. Can feel like the front end really doesn't want to do what you want. Throw it into no-name corner, or Jackie X as it's known now. And then the double left-hander. I'm not going to try and do the French pronunciation of it. We all know it as Pouon, and not troubling the white lines either on the right-hand side of the track. So maybe just Bohm leaving a little bit of time on the table, making sure you get a decent bank clap in, because we know how close it can be in this Q1 session. Through the Fania chicane, a little bit wide on the exit of turn number 14. Through the first part of Stavlo, back of the car sliding a little bit more. And now again, you've got a long, long way to wait as Barrett retires in the pits, so happy not to venture out on a set of the soft compound tyres. And we'll wait and see how that develops. You would expect Barrett will find themselves eliminated in Q1 and maybe spare the blushes of one driver. Through Blanchimont, flat as you like, and then the bus stop chicane to complete the lap time, reprofiled over 20 years ago now. Clatter the curve on the inside of 19 and the inside of 20, pulling gears to the line, and the benchmark time is a 43.3, and the Alpine just behind of Steven Varzo is a tenth and a bit down on that.
Yeah, it's easy to do, isn't it? You make yourself available for these runs, and 43 is already the times that we're starting to see, as we do see Lucas Beisner as well, 43.4 for themselves. We'll ride on board, or at least stay with Florian at the moment, making their way through the exit of Stavlo down towards Blanchimont. They are car number 11 on circuit at the moment, but of course not setting their lap time at the moment. We're being told, well in their decky, not last. Well, at least for the time being, I'd expect him to drop and continually drop, maybe faster than a lead balloon here in Q1, but through the final few corners is that Papaya McLaren. They run up towards the line. What can they do as their benchmark? They cross in 10th, a 43.6.
Very congested considering this is the longest, or was the longest circuit on the calendar. I think Jeddah has just eclipsed it in the last few years. Gal to the line, been pretty decent in qualifying so far this season. 6th fastest as Tudor Presscan on their return into 7th, now 8th as Gabor Chonstos just nestles himself into the top 5. Bohm, Largo, Beisner, Klaffbuk and Luero, the top 5 as things stand. Victor Vidler and Joe Murphy pushed into the relegation zone, along with Declan Barrett, who is already confirmed to be out of qualifying 1. As here comes Clay up to the line and goes fastest by 3 milliseconds, takes over from Bohm at the top of the timing charts, as we wait now for Vermond and for Tomasetto to put in their first efforts.
Not the worst run at the moment, and of course as we make our way down, I can't actually select 21st and 22nd. There we go, I can select 22nd now. No, I can't, because it breaks, which is fun. There we go.
Well, Vermond has gone 13th fastest. Tomasetto has invalidated, so will remain in 22nd, not getting that time on the board. Pushes Jensen Rosen down into the bottom 6. Ben Sabo-Conyi on their first appearance of the season, just on the bubble at the moment in 16th on a 43.6. And this is the time where we start to predict what the cut-off time will be, down to the exact millisecond, TK. What are we thinking? How much can we show off our nous, and how much we truly know about this game and high-level esports by getting this absolutely on the money?
It's a tough one, because you wouldn't let me off if I just said a 143 cut-off, would you?
No, I wouldn't, because that would be getting splinters on that fence.
Well, I'm going to go, and I'm going to try and be somewhat precise. I'm going to say a 143.463.
Oh, just behind Sergio Sabrino. I'm also thinking 43.4. Got the top 11 in that kind of ballpark. I'm probably pretty close to you. I'm thinking, if we're looking at it positionally, Will Gibson's gone for a 362. So that means everybody has to go again. Interesting one there. But I'm also not going to make any comments about the number, as we have a couple of retirements already. Largo, Beissner, Klaffenburg done as well, along with Bone. So the top 5 definitely happy. I'm going to go probably in between Luera and Chonstos, I think. 43.444.
Ooh, interesting. So not much in it from our earlier guesses. Less than 2/10, roughly, give or take. Will Gibson would be extremely happy if every other driver managed to somehow get themselves disqualified here, and Declan Barrett did manage to scrape through. Now, whilst that would be hilarious, I don't see that one happening. Shanika Clay as well retires in the pits, deeming that they have well and truly done enough, and expected to do so if they're ahead of the previous 4 that have already retired from this session. The expectation would be they have done enough. But with 3 minutes and 17 seconds left on the timekeeper's clock, we do start to see drivers making their way back out, the first of which, I believe, will be Stephen Varso.
And as much as I would like to see Will Gibson's prediction correct, like you, I think it might throw into question the integrity of the competition if we all get disqualified and we manage to somehow get Declan Barrett through into Q2. Still haven't seen Bernd Mailander, although Q1 is usually a little bit quiet. It's usually as we head out into Q2, isn't it? And then Q3 is Gabor Chonstos has retired. So I said 43.444. So that would mean, in my world, Gabor Chonstos is getting knocked out, which means I could be looking a little bit foolish when he ends up going through in 9th place, and my prediction was absolutely nowhere near the cut-off time. Can't wait for that one.
We'll see, won't we? This is going to be the final attempt for many of our drivers, as I apparently have been pinged in the VPS Discord server, which I'm curious as to what that's about. I'll have a look in a moment. Sergio Sabrino retires. It's the
stream that you're all watching right now. If you weren't watching the stream, come and watch it. If you are watching the stream, you wouldn't have heard that announcement because you wouldn't have been here. Luero out as well. So top 8 all finished for the session. Vermond still in the pit lane. You would imagine we will see Dirk Vermond just heading out. Is that Vermond heading through? Yes, it is. With some yellow on the nose. I'm trying to think what car's got yellow on.
That's Brawn. But I don't think they're in Formula 1 anymore.
Is it a Renault thing? I'm trying. The Renault didn't usually have
Unless
white
it's like,
though, did it? Apart from
Cadillac referenced their hypercar program.
Maybe I'm gonna get the lineups up. That's the wrong. I've opened the wrong chat.
V-carb or something like that. That might be my
other
guess.
Yes, that's true. I think you might be right on that one. And I have to say,
they've got yellow nose, haven't they?
Yes. V-carb livery. I think I'm in a class of 1 here. Might be the worst looking car of the season. I'm going to put it out there. I apologise for my terrible take.
It was a nice difference when they unveiled it a year or 2 years ago to kind of break tradition from what the previous Racing Bulls or Toro Rosso have done in years gone by. It's just not changed and doesn't look as good on this generation. I'll say it. It's all
Last year, I thought it was really nice.
Yeah.
And then this year, with some of the Ford branding and the way that it's been designed and sculpted on the side pods, I'm just not a fan. Apologies to any people who do like it. But Stephen Varso down by a 10th through the first sector, the first driver that is going to take the checkered flag, unless this is messed up and he'll be venturing back into the pits. 12th fastest as things stand on a 43.502. A little bit of grass on the inside as we head through No Name Corner, and then you throw it as best as you can into Pouon. Absolutely incredible corner to take. Drop it down a cog into 7th. Maybe a bit of lift and coasting going on, or half throttle to try and recharge that battery for the blast out of four-ball threat of turn 16 all the way through Blanchimont and down into the bus stop chicane.
We'll see what they can try and summon up then. Dirk will be the last driver to take the line. They're just approaching up towards the bus stop chicane, so they'll make it by mere seconds here. They've timed this to get the optimal track conditions. It's 27 degrees on that asphalt down the moon, a lovely 19 degrees in the air. We'll watch on board still with Stephen Varto, down towards through Blanchimont and up towards the bus stop chicane. They'll be the first driver to take the line. Can they find an improvement? Can they find safety and security? This will be the question that will be on that Alpine's mind. They come through the final corner and up towards the line, a little bit wide out of the exit of the bus stop. They do find an improvement. It's up to the 1:43.454, so ahead of that cutoff that I might have mentioned earlier.
Crucial to get that final sector because it was down by nearly a tenth through sectors 1 and 2. Tomasetto doesn't have a time on the board for Aston Martin. Through the bus stop chicane we fly. 22nd becomes 13th. We'll be sweating bullets a little bit there as Ben Saba-Conny in the other Aston Martin gets knocked out, doesn't improve, stays 17th. 43.6 definitely not going to be enough. Rosen, Fanzelter, Vidler and Murphy need to find an improvement too. Rosen to P12 pushes Tomasetto further towards the precipice. Murphy up to 15th. Vermont now down into the bottom six as Fanzelter goes 10th fastest with Gal taking over at the top.
Get a run from them at the moment. Prescan through the final corner. They're finding just shy of 0.2 of a second. This is going to be incredibly close up towards the line. They go second fastest. More drivers behind. What can Dirk do? They're finding a 10th. This cutoff is getting incredibly close here, Tom.
Oh, I think you might be right. I can't remember your exact one, but
4.63.
we've shifted into that kind of region. You might be right as Sergio Sobrino now pushed down to 16th. Retired, I believe, in the pit lane before we started this and could be getting knocked out. Vermont needs to find a 10th of a second. We will be losing Declan Barrett, Sabo-Conny, Joe Murphy, Elia Tomasetto and Jensen Rosen. But it's Sobrino versus Vermont back of the car complaining as he throws it into the first part of the bus stop chicane. Vermont to the line and he crosses it and I think
12th.
Gets through in 12th.
43.437 for Vermont there. So a good run right at the death. So I wasn't far off with that qualifying prediction, I'll be honest. Closer than I thought it was going to be. You're not far off as well.
I would have been P14 with my lap time, I think. 4:44.
I would have been 17th? Yeah. I would have been one. I was off by 2 milliseconds. I'll take that.
Oh, nice work. But the 6 to make way, so used to saying 5 to make way. Sergio Sobrino in 17th. Jensen Rosen, maybe a bit of a surprise with the qualifying pace that we've seen from them so far this season. Elia Tomasetto, Joe Murphy, Ben Sabo-Conny, and Declan Barrett, who ventured out at the very start on the medium tyres, did 3 laps in the 46s, and then said, "That's me done, lads. I'll see you in the race."
Like he got halfway through his cricket match and decided it was time for tea and pulled his way into the pits and just retired. Decided he did not want to go any further. Will Gibson in the chat, I was close. You know what? We'll give it to him. He was just shy of 3.2 seconds off predicting that, so that was close enough for me.
If he changed the 46 to a 43, then he would
really
have almost.
wasn't
Oh no,
far
because it was a 3.62, not a 4.62.
Ah.
So.
Yeah,
Got all the right
3.62.
numbers, just not quite in the right order.
Maybe his dyscalculate. What's the word? Dyspraxic?
Dyspraxia, is it? Or
Was it
dyscalculus?
dyscalculia? One of the two.
Calculia.
Calculus.
Not sure.
Yeah. The one that's bad at maths.
Maybe the fact that we don't know it means that we might have it.
I think it's dyscalculia.
Dyslexic is you can't
Read.
you can't deal with letters. Thank you for putting it so bluntly.
Dyspraxic is you
it
struggle with mobility in your hands and joints, I think.
Oh, so I'm like completely wrong.
Dyscalculia is numbers.
Dyscalculia. I don't know why I'm saying dyscalculus.
Close enough.
Disrupt how the brain understands, learns, and processes numbers and basic maths. Well done.
Yeah. Got one thing right today. You've learned a new thing in chat. Don't say these streams aren't educational.
Don't say we don't. You won't find this anywhere else, everybody. People in between qualifying 1 and qualifying 2 discussing dyslexia and dyspraxia and dyscalculia.
And getting it wrong.
And getting it. Well, no, you got it right. Don't do yourself a disservice there. I was the one that was talking about hand injuries when trying to work out why people couldn't tell the difference between 3 and 4.
Oh, they just can't count on their fingers, can they?
No. Oh, no. It's... Like I said, you don't get this anywhere else, everybody. But we venture out, qualifying 2, 15 minutes originally on the clock. With the way that time works, we are now down to 3 minutes and 37 seconds exactly. As I think those are the two McLarens heading up towards Pouon, definitely with Florian Vanzelter and Tudor Pressacan just in front, who I believe did win the second social race before the season even started. So has got some really strong pace, but it was Tamas Gal who was fastest in qualifying one. As there's Bernd, we just see him right in the back of shot. Joe Murphy out of the session. But we just got a glimpse there for the first time of Bernd Mailander as we go through Stavelo. There he is, pounding round.
Oh, it's always good to see Bernd as he half disappears with a few
Where's he gone?
He has discovered that cloak from Harry Potter that makes you invisible. I've forgotten the actual name of it.
I won't be able to help you on that, unfortunately.
I
see one
I'd
of the
love to know. They're just avoiding the safety car. They don't know whether it's going to be ghosted or not. Which is a fair assumption, knowing F125.
They'll realise as well that he's not going to come into the pits. Oh, he gets the proper up and under. Slices past. Now phases through. A Vanzelder gets through Bernd Mailander. Can't go left, can't go right. Will just go straight through. Steven Varzo, once again, the first out there to tackle the circuit in anger in qualifying 2. There's a lot of drivers coming across the line too to start their first flying laps. Chonstos leaving the session. Not good news in the pit lane currently. We'll want to try and get back in ASAP. Victor Vidler, one of the drivers that actually surprised me a little bit there, was maybe sweating coming through the majority of Q1, but put in a really strong effort come the end of the session. I believe was definitely inside the top 5. Might have even been P3 as or at session's end. So watch out for Victor Vidler.
Yeah, one of those drivers I think is, I don't want to say a last gasp hurrah merchant, but does like to put in a good lap time right at the death. Maybe they enjoy the pressure that is placed upon them. Steven Varso just making their way through the left hand. Oh my goodness, saving that car. As my game decides to have a bit of a moment. Things we love to see. But maybe that slide was just enough to recalibrate the Alpine, and almost certainly will have to back out of this lap in an attempt to go again, because that is not going to be the quickest time from Steven Varso that we're going to see.
Maybe that's what caused the screen freeze for you.
Maybe.
The game was so shocked that he managed to keep it pointing in the right direction. But we'll just need to take a minute here to take stock of what's gone on all over the place through Stavelo. Dipping a couple of tyres and now looping it around through turn 16 of Corporal Frere. Just keeps it out of the wall in the Armco that extends out on the right-hand side. Vanzelter gets through unfazed by that one as he heads through Blanchimont of turn 17, already recharging, already run out of deployment, most likely at this stage of the straight. So you're basically cruising through 17 and 18, hard on the brakes down to the bus stop, crank the steering lock on right and then left through 19 and 20. Back of the car a little bit lively coming out of it, but the benchmark is a 43.9 as we see a couple of drivers coming back to the pits, or a lot of drivers coming back to the pit lane. In fact, these used tyre runs, most of them obviously deciding not going to be overly useful.
Conrad Bohm deciding to opt for the medium compounder tyre, which is what we saw last time out in Q1. Of course, no lap time was set, so maybe Conrad deciding to do the exact same thing here in Q2. Jensen Rosen leaves the session. A few drivers, I think, just struggling maybe with connection issues or issues among that. But of course, as you said, the used tyre runs have happened. They've got the opportunity now to bolt on a fresh set of dry compound tyres and continue to go again. We've got more drivers making their way out now. Lucas Beisner and Tamas Kokene as well, two drivers that are going to go for their first runs of the afternoon, making their way up Eau Rouge and Radion and down the Kemmel Straight for the very first time in qualifying 2.
And I do like that Ferrari livery for Beisner, I have to say. I've always been a person that I prefer the Ferrari when that secondary colour is black compared to white. I don't necessarily love it when the white's the secondary colour. I think this year it's fine. I think it looks quite good, mainly because they've got the shade of red right, in my opinion. But 2016 I think of, I didn't particularly like that one with the white. And then you look at 22 and 23, and even 24 because you had the streaks of white and a little bit of yellow on there as well. That's probably my favourite Ferrari. And 25 with that HP logo plastered down the engine cover. My days, that was an eyesore.
Just looked wrong, didn't it? Like, no hate to Ferrari, but I mean, you need to sort your sponsor placements out. It wouldn't happen to any other team. And of course, the white in there, it's a double-edged sword, especially in a sport like Formula One, because yes, you're more likely to catch your eye, or it's more likely to catch your eye as it zooms past on circuit. But I'd argue that being the only red car on the circuit for the majority of those years probably already did enough of that.
And even when the other red cars are on screen, people that don't know a lot about F1 see red car, think Ferrari. So they've obviously got the branding right in some regard, but then you plus, and it's the fact that it's blue as well. And when we had Miami, what was it, 24? We had that incongruous mix of blue, white, red, and on that, it works on some flags, but it doesn't work on the Ferrari livery, especially when it's almost looked like it had been done in a tea break. Oh, we need to slap this livery together. Oh, we'll make the mirrors blue and some bits on the rear wing.
I'd have loved to have seen, though, a full blue Ferrari livery, because there's a few cars that you can get in Ferrari blue. They do, like, I think the newer sports cars, like, come in a nice shade of blue. So I wouldn't have minded if they turn around and gone, you know what, we'll do an entirely blue livery for one race. We'll remove the heritage, but we'll lean into a sponsor and then just not have it on the car for the rest of the year. That would have made more headlines, in my opinion.
They have run in blue before.
Yeah.
I think it was back in the 60s where they had that blue livery because there was some kind of falling out between maybe themselves and Italy or something going on back home for them. So, yeah, I think it was more of that sort of dark Royal Navy blue, and I think that would look pretty nice. But Bison through the first sector, 30.7 so far for himself. Fairly competitive so far, but still a long way to go. And it's not the first sector where you make up your time, is it?
It's not. It's normally the second and the third, but of course, a lot of recharge happening in the second sector to allow you to really push as you make your way through the third. Will Gibson's asked for thoughts on the Ferrari Luce. It's not a car. It's what's the word? It's a mobility scooter on steroids. It's not a car.
I just need to look at it again because that's got the right shade of blue, the picture that I've just looked at, but it is one of the worst looking things I have ever seen in my life. And for a company that prides itself on being pretty, I was at an Aston Martin event of the weekend.
Ooh,
oh my days, there were some very nice cars there.
What are you doing at an Aston Martin event?
Taking photos of Aston Martins.
Okay.
Because
I mean, that's quite cool.
we do not have the facilities to be owning. I don't even think I have the rights to be able to stand that close to certain Aston Martin cars. But yes, they were very nice indeed, I have to say. Effectively a car meet, though, to be honest. But Bison through the bus stop chicane to set a 43.2 competitive lap time there. Similar to the top-end pace that we were seeing at the end of Qualify 1. Kilkenny half a tenth down, also in the 43.2s, though, as we turn our attention now to the McLaren of Bresserkamp.
Does nicely in towards bus stop, and we'll see what they're able to try and concoct up here. Into the final corner, Alejandro Loero goes fastest, 1:43.150. What can Prescan do? Only a 43.3. They were purple in the opening sector. Tamas Gal goes third, purple first and purple third. Again, that middle sector really starting to let them down there. 2.5 tenths off the time that Loero did set, and I think even a little bit more than that. So the first and the third not making up for the delta and the loss that they suffered in that middle sector. Let's see what Sharnaka Clay can do. They surprised us in Q1. They did go fastest for the longest amount of time as they run up towards the line. What can they do this time? Can they go fastest? No, it's only 8th fastest for Clay.
Yeah, a couple of tenths down, I think, on what we saw potentially in Q1, or maybe matching that time, because we didn't see Clay at the end of the session. So Dirk Vermond, the last to head out on a lap time. Fanzelter still in the pit lane also. So Largo, Vidler, Varzo and Raminguez, the 4 competitive times that make up the bottom 6, along with Fanzelter and Vermond, with Tudor Prescan on the precipice at the moment of being knocked out. And I don't think this is a push lap either for Vermond, so it must have been an invalidation on their first attempt.
Not looking the way they like to run at the moment. I've been told as well, Ferrari used to they raced using North American Racing as a proxy entry because they had a falling out with somebody running in blue in the early 60s. That's to do with Ferrari, of course, our earlier conversation. The man that I know that has all of the F1 knowledge came in clutch with that. So yeah, it's interesting to see they have raced there. Probably don't want to go back to that knowing that that's what blue represents within their history, I suppose.
That's a very good point. Although they're willing to go for that HP sponsorship, as Vermond giving whoever that is just in front maybe a bit of a fright heading into the Fanier chicane, but obviously not on a push lap. And looking at the summit at the moment, we've got Loera and Santana, 43.15, and then there's 700ths of a second between themselves and that next group of cars of Bison, Gal, Bohm, and then into Kilkenny and Chonstos, who are in the high 43.2s. Are we potentially in a situation here where Loera and Santana can be comfortable? We don't usually see drivers retire in qualifying too. Usually everybody does head out at the end of the session, but maybe with that gap that they've got, they might be just sitting a little bit more comfortable.
I don't know. It's going to be a very questionable one. We're talking already about cut-off times here, aren't we? Because we've seen people in the chat, Gabriel Quintino, one of them, that has mentioned the cut-off will be a 2:67. At the moment, that would only make Conrad Bohm and above safe the top 5. So, you know, where's your prediction going here, Tom? What are you thinking for the 10? What are they requiring to be safe? Because I think it's going to be very close.
I might be aggressive because I'm looking at the bottom 6 at the moment. I think Vidler can go a lot faster. I would expect Largo can go a lot faster. Fressicam maybe. Clay definitely, I think, has got a couple of tenths in that as well. So I'm gonna go for a Richie Benno 222.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna follow your suit somewhat. I'm gonna go 333.
Other than Triple Nelson.
No one's going to improve. Everyone's safe
No.
at the moment.
I just realised that. Well, if it's a 333, then well, Tudor Presscam's going to be absolutely loving life. As Conrad Bohm first back out on the track for the last time in Q2. And as I suspected, Alex Santana does retire in the pits, and that almost guarantees that Loera will also decide to hop out of this one and beat a retreat to the paddock. Or
Want
the
to get Gabriel
so-called
Quintino
paddock.
banned. Get him gone. None of that in the chat.
Can't believe you're bigging up TK like that. Damn! Quintino, is there a reason why you're not racing this week, Gabriel Quintino?
He was scared.
Scared. Damn.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle it. I'm
Have you
waiting to see what the
recovered
response is
from
now.
Idles Monza yet? Interesting. Well, we'll wait for that. But of course, all other 15 drivers out on circuit at the moment. Santana deciding they're safe. Loera deciding they're not, which is a really interesting prospect. They're still out on the soft compounded tyre as well, because if they thought they were safe and just going for a bit of a run, they might have expected them to maybe hop out there on a set of the mediums like we've seen at the start of qualifying session, but that is not the case. They feel like they need some time left in their locker.
Quintino was scared of being roasted by you and TK. Whether that's me or whether that's Will Gibson, I think it still applies to both sides of that, to be honest. But how many points do you have this season so far, Gabriel? Because I feel like you've been quite consistent. I might be throwing you under the bus a little bit there. I can't see it. I haven't got the outside of the top 11 on the standings at the moment.
That's all we've got available to us, isn't it? We've only got them. Hold on, I've got it on my phone. 1 second.
TK with the live updates.
They're not in the top 22.
Oh.
That's awkward, you know. Hasn't scored 15.
Consistently last. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, not on the standings graphic.
Well, that's bad. When you've got reserves, that's like Sergio Perez at the minute being 23rd. I'm sorry. I mean, you would beat both of us by about 3 seconds a lap. So if that's any consolation, I don't know. But we are heading out onto the final runs. Alex Santana, the only driver as things stand that is still in the pit lane.
It's interesting. Yeah, obviously, the only driver that is opting not to go for one of these final runs, which kind of makes sense. He feels that he's safe 5,000ths of a second off the back of Loera. Be a watch on board with Loera, just making their way through the bus stop chicane at the moment. 15 seconds to go. It's going to be close to whether Vermont makes it to the lap, but I think they are just safe behind you. 8 seconds or so change.
Cutting it fine in Q1 as well. I think I only got over the line with, 2 or 3 seconds to spare? So getting the timing absolutely spot on. Here is Bohm heading into the final set. There was 1 millisecond down on their personal best through sector 1. Do we find time? Yes, we find a hell of a lot of time. 10th and a half up through sectors 1 and 2. And that, if people don't know that, could just put a few people under pressure. Alex Santana, if they can see that, might be sweating a little bit if everybody else continues to extract that level of performance and improvements on the final runs. Bottom 6 at the moment, Largo, Vidler, Varza, Raminges, Fanzelter and Vermont. Bohm 5th fastest as things stand on a 43.2. There is Bernd Meilander crossing the line to finish the session. Bohm from P5 to P3, 43.1.
0.5 of a second is being found by Florian as well. They need to find time if they want to try and jump up. 43.9 was their previous attempt, which is really not the way they like to see. But through Blanchimont, it was interesting to know that Conrad already was out of battery before they even got to that section of corners. We do see drivers jumping up. Francesco Largo up to 4th. It's Tamas Kokene up to 7th as well. Stephen Varso is out. They can't improve. Tamas Gal goes fastest. 43.148. 2,000th of a second quicker. Florian can't improve. That's going to be important later in this race as we watch our way around. Dirk's making their way through Stavolo. Sharnika Clay goes fastest. 43.0.
Johnstos P10 worrying for the prospects of Tamas Kokeni here, now down to P10 and on the bubble. Johnstos Klaffenborg. Now Kokeni goes as Klaffenborg goes second fastest. 2.22 was my prediction. I don't think it's quite going to be the case as Raminguez improves but stays only 12th. That becomes 13th as we wait now for Vermont. Needs to try and beat Tudor Pressercam's personal best. 43.2, and I don't think he manages it.
I thought it was a 43.1.
Oh, he does manage it. Well, yeah. I apologise for underselling your abilities there, Dirk. Getting through comfortably in the end.
Where was it? Yeah, 43.150. Exact same lap time as Alejandro Luero.
So that means that the 6 that are knocked out, Tudor Pressercamp beaten with a buzzer beater. Victor Vidler, perhaps surprised with the pace that we saw in Q1. Kokeni, Raminguez, Varzo, and Fanselter, who looked a little bit out of shape through the bus stop on their final run. And I think we'll find that my 43.222 would have put me in 10th place.
It would have. You're absolutely right. It's a right on the bubble. Not a bad run for yourself there. Assuming we'll knock out, 16th. We won't worry about them too much at the moment. But our attention now surely switches to pole time. Are we going to see anyone in the 42s for these final runs? Because Sharnika was incredibly close, just shy of a 100th off of the back of getting into the 42s.
And Gabor Chonstos was pretty close, low 43.1. So what was that? The top 8 were all in the 43.1s. Top 8 separated by 3/4 of a tenth. Around a circuit like this, that is not a lot when it's over 7 kilometres and we've got the top 8 separated by 75 thousandths of a second.
Very, very close. 12 minutes then, here in Q3. Let us know in the live chat who you think is going to be taking pole position here today. Will it be Klaffenbach, Beisner, Vermond, Gal, Largo, Santana, Chonstos, Clay, Bohm, or Luero? Which one of those 10 drivers will be taking home the illustrious pride and bragging point for claiming pole position here at the circuit Spa-Francorchamps?
I'm not actually sure, and this is a stat I probably should have looked at, how many times the pole sitter has gone on to win the race this season. I think it's not been every week because I don't think Otis Lawrence got pole last week and then eventually came through. Was it Alvaro Caraton that took pole position
Caraton right at the end.
Yeah, by pretty much nothing and then got involved in a couple of incidents throughout the race. Left Otis Lawrence to pick it up just in the end, defeating Joris Krozen on the last lap. A dash down into the Casio triangle to complete the race. Conrad Bohm first out on the track in the Mercedes car. Once again, we've said that a nice recreation of the Mercedes livery. Talking about liveries again, what are we thinking about the Mercedes liveries? Are we liking the sort of mix that they've got with the silver and the black? Do we like the all black? Do we like the all silver still? I'm not 100% sure what I want from Mercedes.
See, I've liked the direction they've taken every year because it's never been the same, for too long. Like Red Bull Racing, every TE you turn around and go, what livery are they going to do? Is it blue with their logo on it? It's probably going to be blue with their logo on it. But Mercedes have kind of gone sometimes silver. I loved the all-black run when they had, obviously, Hamilton winning so many of his career in his championships. And it just looked mean on the circuit, didn't it? Under the lights especially, where we had so many teams and so many colours. They were just always that car that you could spot from a mile away because they were a little bit different. They've gone back to almost a 50-50 blend. I'm not entirely convinced by the teal dash that goes through. See, in reference, I believe their partner Petronas that uses that colour as their main colour grid, but I'm not against it. I feel like there's something they could do for next year that can really hype up their livery because they've always had one of the best on the grid, I'd argue.
I do like the teal. I like the colour. I feel like maybe we could have some more fun with it. Was it maybe 2018 or 19 where it was a little bit more prominent perhaps on the rear wing maybe? I'm glad that we got rid of the Ineos sponsorship from a few years ago as well because I wasn't a big fan of that red. Ironic that people not fans of Ineos with Jim Ratcliffe doing what he was doing at Manchester United, but we'll gloss over that one because Conrad Bohm is powering up through Eau Rouge and Radion and onto the Kemmel Straight. Keeping his foot planted, buried into the floor of his silver arrow. Clay leaves the session. Not good news there for the driver that might just be the favourite to take provisional pole and eventually pole position as well, as we throw ourselves into the Les Combes chicane with Conrad Bohm. Has taken a pole position so far this season, back in round number 4 at Austria, so there is a little bit of history maybe behind Bohm. Could be challenging for this pole position, although the car complaining ever so slight in the second part of Rivage.
Yeah, it's looking close at the moment for Bohm, and we'll see how they handle through Pouon, through the left-hander, where they try and throw the car in. That extra bout of straight line mode added in the 2026 regulations, which is going to really open up opportunities for making moves down into that corner. If you can't hear the sarcasm in my voice, then maybe I'll have to go a little bit dulled down for the 22-lap race later on. But Conrad down towards the entrance towards Stavolo. We'll see what they can try and do on the splits. It's 30.8. Shanaka Clay back in the session. That is going to be annoying, but not qualifying ending. Of course, it will set them back amongst the rest of the grid, so they might only actually get one run at this.
Absolutely. And this is a circuit where if you get the timings wrong, you can have your pants pulled down a little bit. They're heading through Blanchimont with Bohm up towards the bus stop chicane. Just 2 corners left to negotiate. 1 braking zone. Try and attack it as much as you possibly can. Sausage curves on the inside, your friend or your foe. Neat and tidy run from Bohm through the bus stop and up to the line. 43.5 is the benchmark for the Mercedes driver.
Needs a lot more, I would feel, as they make their way through this qualifying session, because we're going to see the 42s. I'm 95% sure of that. We will see drivers starting to edge ever closer towards that benchmark. I think it's just a question of time as to who manages to get as close to it, if not eclipse over that benchmark. Here's Klaffenbach to the line then, starting their first flying run. Either that or they've invalidated their previous one. We've got everybody else just getting themselves accustomed again to this race circuit.
Loera 30.6 Sector 1 is pretty decent. Chonstos just heading through Rouge and Radion. Bison 30.6 as well through the first sector. I think it is Alex Santana potentially heading up towards Stavolo now. That'll be the next driver over the line moving into the final sector. Bison has been really consistent so far this season. The same you would have to hand out to Julian Klaffenbach as well, and Tamas Gal, who was at one stage in the fight for a potential podium last week, but just started to slip backwards, got embroiled in some box office battles that we saw last week in Suzuka. Hopefully we see more of the same, because it was extremely exciting. Santana throws the car into the bus stop chicane. Front end biting, maybe a little bit deep into turn number 19. Back of the car sliding through 20 and to the line 30 or 43.3, couple of tenths quicker than Bohm.
Keep an eye on both Bison and Largo. They are purple in the respective first and second sectors. Loero now fastest. We have more drivers coming up towards the line just behind them. Here's Bison towards the line, 43.055, starting to creep ever further down. Behind him, Largo. Can they go faster? Not quite. 43.1 for themselves, and what is the accurately depicted, I believe, Audi livery, which is what I'm guessing from that one. But we are creeping so close to those 42s. It won't be long, I think, until we're in them.
Klaffenbach with an opportunity. Same with Gabor Chonstos, who is either just up the road or just further back down the road, coming through Blanchimont now. 6 times on the board. Tamas Gal, surprisingly, the slowest of all of them. A wobble there for Klaffenbach out of the final corner, but doesn't hold him back. And that is the fastest time that we have seen this evening so far. 43.008 for Vermont to try and chase, who goes 8th fastest of the 8 times that we've had so far. Here is Chonstos up through Rouge and Radion, with Clay also out on the road for an outlap. We're hoping to try and get their skates on, see if they can maybe try and squeeze 2 laps out of this one. But with 5 and a bit minutes left to go, that is going to be cutting it extremely fine.
I think if you're Clay at this moment in time, surely you've got to take the approach where you double fuel to go for that run where you don't need to come into pit, because actually at the moment you're not going to have enough time to go in, do a hot lap, call up, in, and then an out lap before that checkered flag flies. It's going to be extremely close for Clay, and they're almost going to have to adapt their strategy to that connection issue that they had slightly earlier on as Declan Barrett rejoined the session. Into the pits comes Shanaka Clay, deciding that this final run, or this penultimate run, was not going to be their time. They're going to come in, fresh set of tyres, maybe just a reconnaissance lap happening there. This gives them the opportunity to come in, get a fresh set of tyres on, and actually go out in formation with pretty much everybody else on circuit. Chancellor's 32.5 in the middle sector, or in the first sector, should I say, and in making their way through 45.2 in the middle. It's about a second off of pace from what Conrad Bohm was doing last lap around.
Interesting. That must have been some kind of mistake out there at some point. As we keep watching it with John Stoss, definitely away from what you need to be challenging with Klaffenborg and Bison are into the bus stop already in the 140s. Will we be jumping back? Yes, we do. Return to the pits. Bone back out on the circuit. Klaffenborg, I believe, on an in-lap. Provisional pole sitter as things stand. 8 milliseconds away from getting into the 42s for the first time this season. Tamas Gal was fastest in Q1. Shanika Clay was fastest in Q2. But we have a third different driver fastest in the third and final part of qualifying. At the moment, that is certainly the case.
You're absolutely right. Until I've been given some great news as well this evening. I've been told that I've won the greatest racing championship of Earth, or at least tonight's endeavours of it. It is Robo Race. I won the German Grand Prix, hosted on Automobilista 2. by one Mr. Daniel Gilligan. It was classic Hockenheimring today. We're in the 70s or 80s cars, and it ended with a lot of DNFs, I'll put it that way.
Where are you in the championship?
I don't know. I won both that and Le Mans, so I must be doing all right.
Definitely doing all right. Two very fun circuits to pick up a win for, I'm sure. How many seasons are they on of that now?
A lot. Far too many.
A lot. We'll leave it at that then. Classic Gilligan, I think, is the best way to summarise that one. But it is Bohm once again who will lead us away. Just under 3 minutes to go. We'll be hoping that nobody decides now's the time to head out on circuit. Otherwise, there might be a little bit of traffic to contend with. And as I say that, somebody does pull out of the garage into pit road. A few others coming through as well. So maybe Bohm might just have to deal with a little bit of traffic, although probably going to catch them at the right part of the circuit if he can get to them before the Les Combes chicane. As we start what could be the final flying lap with the driver currently sixth fastest.
All important now. They're do or die for Conrad Bohm as they make their way out of La Source and down towards Eau Rouge and Radion. 43.5. Their previous best. They are going to have to find a minimum 0.5 of a second, if not a little bit more, if they want to try and claim pole position. The run down the Kemmel Straight ensues. We're still waiting to see Bert Mylander here in Q3. We haven't seen him yet.
Not gone missing in action. Bohm, though, through the first sector split. 30.8. A little bit up on the personal best, but that's not really where you want to be. Could be a case of sacrificing sector one to keep some battery in hand for the final sector. The run out of Corporal Frere into the bus stop, using all of the road and the curb to try and get that optimal line. Swing it through turn 10 of Rivage, and again, looping it through turn 11 of No Name Corner, right up towards the extremities of the track. And down the hill we go into Pouon. Slamming shut is the straight line mode. A little bit wide potentially through the first part, but then cuts back. Takes a really tight line through 12 and into the Fagnes chicane, using that curb again on the outside. Doesn't use too much of the curb on the inside. They can be a little bit perilous. A nice and tidy run through the Fagnes chicane. Are we finding time? We need to have a strong middle sector here for Bohm. Sixth at the moment. And yes, half a second up.
That is not just enough. They need to find 0.008 of a second through the final sector, though, if they want to try and displace Julian Klaffenbach. At the moment, that's not even encompassing. If they manage to go faster in the remaining 1 minute and 4 seconds left in this Q3 session. Conrad Bohm up towards bus stop. This is all important. This is make or break for the lap. They navigate that nicely. Use all of the track to their possibility up towards the line. Then what can they do? 1:42.989. We're into the 42s, everybody. 9 drivers remain, and as do 45 seconds.
Superb lap there from Bohm, throwing the gauntlet down to everybody else to chase. Nobody even on a fast lap at the moment, and I'm looking at some of those drivers just heading up towards Blanchimont now, with the backing up that we could see might just be under a little bit of pressure. 30 seconds to go. Largo starting a lap along with Tamas Gal. I think there should be space enough okay that nobody's going to fall foul of the clock counting down. 20 seconds left. 4 drivers still yet to cross the line.
They are going to make it, I think, just by the skin of their teeth. Just behind me, you see Dirk again, the driver that wants to start last. This is going to be made by about 4 seconds, I'd imagine. Across the line with 6 to go. And there's 2 drivers, as you rightly said, that haven't set a lap time here at the moment. Gabor Chonstos and Shanika Clay. They're in 9th and 10th, respectively. They've got it all to do here, knowing now the time is a 42.9. And it's only 1 lap away.
So Bohm with the fastest lap time that we've seen so far. Klaffenbach was the provisional pole sitter. Clay was fastest in Q2 with a 30.7 in and around the right ballpark. A 10th quicker than Bohm through sector 1, but we saw Bohm absolutely nail the middle sector. And that could prove critical. Largo heading through Pouon at the moment. Driver just up the road heading through Corporal Frere now. Not sure who that driver is, but we're still focusing on Largo, who's a little bit wide through the first part of the Fania chicane. Not the optimal run for the driver, fourth fastest. Currently on a 43.1. Needs a couple of tenths to try and challenge for pole position. Up by 15, 16 milliseconds. That's not quite enough at this stage.
It's not. They would have been hoping for a lot more, but Francesco Largo up through Blanchimont. We can ride on board and see how much battery they've got. They've got absolutely nothing available in that tank. We know just how much they have to charge to be able to have all the battery available for the run down towards bus stop, and it just seems to not go the way of Francesco Largo at the moment. Through the bus stop chicane they go, then up towards the line. What can Largo do? This time improves by 600ths of a second. Behind them, it's Tamás Gál. They go fastest, 42.932, as more times start to come across the board. What can Shanaka Clay do? As Luero goes second fastest as well. Little wiggle just in front. Here comes Clay towards the line. 8th fastest is all they can summon up this time. Can Chonsos do it? No. 9th fastest for them. What can Dirk do? They've invalidated, but they had found half a second.
And Klaffenburg threw it away as well. Didn't find an improvement. Stays only 4. Janica Clay with a little bit of an underachievement in Q3, but you can understand why with the disconnect, just throwing the run plan off kilter ever so slightly. But it means that Tamás Gál can take that pole position away. 3 drivers in the 42s. Gál, Luero and Bohm, who couldn't quite pick up a second pole position of the season. Klaffenburg, Santana, great session. Bison, Largo, Clay, Chonstos and Vermond, the top 10 for the Belgian Grand Prix. Welcome back to us.
Welcome. What a qualifying.
Yeah, that was good fun.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily think that Tamás Gál was going to be taking that, despite being fastest in Q1. Got through Q2, I think, pretty comfortably, but yeah, with a great lap at the end of the session. Luero, once again, really strong over one lap, and Bohm finding the form that we saw a few weeks ago in Austria as well, where they took the one and only pole position that they've got so far this season.
Absolutely, and I think as we head into race day as well, it's a completely different complex, isn't it? 22 laps of this circuit. There's a lot more battery charging required because we are going to see a lot more of that yo-yo racing, I think, as we make our way through more notably towards that halfway mark. But yeah, completely different situation from qualifying to race now.
Interesting to see how they reset. Of course, we do have a lobby reset now. We're going to get back in the 26 cars. Everyone's going to get the soft tyres back, even though most people don't like to use them. And before we do dip off for our little interlude between qualifying and the race, we have a bit of a strategy talk.
Yes.
Because the trend that we've seen so far is we started the season with the undercut being very powerful, and in the last few races, it's been the overcut and the tyre offset that has proven to gain you massive time. You've got a massive pace advantage, even with just a couple of laps.
I think this is going to be a real dependent marker on where you file out of the pits and where you manage to stay within, because I think if you lose that overtake mode, if you lose the slipstream here in this Spa, that is going to be more beneficial, or sorry, detrimental, should I say, than actually picking the overcut, the undercut right. It's going to be so much about pack racing here at the moment, making sure you have that extra straight line speed, making sure that you can work with other drivers, and if you get left alone, that's going to hurt your race more than any strategy could.
Really dynamics at play, and I'm sure this will be a very interesting race with some perhaps bigger names slightly down the order as well, and an opportunity in the championship, let's not forget, with some of the big names not taking part. Top 4 in the championship, I believe, are not here. And Tamás Gál, P5 in the standings. Opportunity perhaps to move a little bit close. But we will be right back very shortly for the resumption of the Belgian Grand Prix. 22 laps incoming. welcome back for us two included as well. Qualifying done. You have not missed a race, thankfully. 22 laps still in the Belgian Grand Prix approaching us. And we've got an interesting Grand Prix. That run down to turn 1 of La Source will be a fascinating one. You can get a little bit tetchy out there with the sausage curb and the gravel that was brought in a couple of years ago. And then that long run, 20 plus seconds, burying your foot to the floor through Eau Rouge and Radion, down the Kemmel Straight into the Lake Comme chicane, which again invites a little bit of action and invites a little bit of carnage.
I've got bad history with Blanchimont, if you can remember back from GT3 days. Managed to bin it lap 1 of a 2.5-hour race there, which was fun. But thankfully, not as much of an issue in Formula 1 cars. The downforce that these cars, and especially this generation of cars, provide basically means that it's flat out. But yeah, going to be a good race. 22 laps of this circuit. And actually, as we were mentioning just before the break, adds in that really strategic element as well. Because not only are we talking about overcuts and undercuts, but it's just about staying in that pack and maintaining the pack racing.
Yeah, and it's how many variables we've got, whether you try and extend your medium stint, whether you try and go hard, medium, work that one out. We know that overtaking with the way the battery works is easier, but there is a situation where you can get stuck because the battery racing can almost cluster people together because one person burns and everybody else goes with them, and then none of you have got any battery, so you're all jostling for position. So interesting dynamics, like I said, that are going to play out over the course of our 22-lap race. Whether there'll be rain, I don't think so. I think rain is turned off. We definitely won't be having any safety cars, so the mysterious phasing appearances of Bernd Mailander will be no more in our 22-lap race. And I've just realised, for some reason, I've got a coaster by the wall there that's upwards like that rather than flat. I don't know why I've done that.
Are you putting your drink sideways on the counter?
Well, that would be bad. I don't think the surface tension's good enough to hold that, so I'll put it down because that's annoyed me as much as it probably hasn't annoyed everybody else.
So you've got coasters for cups of tea, and I've got irresponsible adult drinks behind me that probably shouldn't be in the background of the shop, but they look nice, and I haven't opened them. Interesting to note, the weather, at least on my screen, I don't know if I can flick across quickly to the lobby. You can see on the left-hand side there at Belgium, there is a question mark next to the weather, which normally means it hasn't been set to dry. Because I think if it's set to dry, it will tell you it's dry, whereas that shows a little element of randomness.
That should be dynamic weather. I am 99% sure, which I'll be all for because we've seen it. We saw it a couple of weeks ago at Austria, or 3 weeks ago, I think it was at Austria, where we had rain really, really late. Caught out a few drivers. Alejandro Loera, one of them in particular. We had some punctures late on as well because we had some undercuts, people going for the earlier stop, found themselves caught short by the time we got to the end of the race, and then the rain came down, they were grappling for grip, and then the tyres exploded. So it wasn't a particularly fun few laps for those drivers that were caught out. And if we know anything about Spa, when it rains, my days does it rain properly.
Yeah, it really does pour, doesn't it? It's like the Luke Combs song, when it rains, it pours. And it certainly does like to chuck it down at Spa-Francorchamps. We are literally seconds away from getting ready to go racing. We've got 16 seconds on the lobby, and then normally about a minute after that until drivers get themselves prepared and assured. But I want to hear everybody's predictions for who they think is going to take this race win. Will it be Tamas Gal? Will it be someone else completely? Who knows at this moment in time?
Absolutely. I will get the top 10 on the grid up for you. It is Tamas Gal, like you said, on pole. Then Alejandro Loera, Conrad Bohm, Julian Klaffenborg, Alex Santana, Lucas Beisner, Francesco Largo, Shanaka Clay, Gabor Chanstos, and Dirk Vermont, the top 10 on the grid. So who are we fancying? Maybe somebody that's not on that list. Hopefully the person you say is actually here. Otherwise, that might be quite difficult for them to win the race.
Dortenzio wins it from the pit lane. He just hops in one of the T cars and goes for it. I think my serious prediction, and I'm going to say this with a straight face, Shanaka Clay from 8th, he's a fantastic driver on his day. He's had a really string of bad luck with teams and appearances in esports over the last few years, which aren't necessarily always his fault. I think he joins teams at the end of game cycles and everything's kind of been figured out and then has to kind of learn and adapt very quickly. But equally, he's that driver that does adapt very quickly, can put in a good shift when he needs to. It sometimes just lacks consistency, but I think today might be his day.
Yeah, it was unlucky a week ago in Japan as well. Was caught up. I can't remember if it was him or if it was somebody else that was speared into the wall on the left-hand side about 5 seconds after we started. But Clay definitely had some front wing damage in that Audi, which was unfortunate because I think they'd qualified okay. And maybe with the problems that they had in Q3, disconnected at the start of the session, was only able to get one flying lap in. A decent first lap time after the first runs. I think that would have put Clay third or fourth potentially with a 43 flat. It was only a tenth of a bit off pole position in the end. So definitely opportunities. And we know, and we've seen so far this season, where you start doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily the be-all and end-all, is it?
It's not, and it's a weird, I don't want to say bug, because it's not, it's a weird feature of not having safety cars enabled with these sort of caliber of lobbies. It's, you can't afford to make a mistake, because any mistake you do make not only gets punished in the race, maybe with some damage or maybe a knock to the confidence, but there is literally no hope of getting back into the race. It's why we so often see so many retirements, because drivers go, you know what, do I fancy driving this round for 28 more laps and I'm not actually going to get back into this race? It's not like endurance racing where you can kind of knock down times a little bit and a little bit at a time over maybe 6 to 12 hours. Whereas, you know, you've got, what, 45 minutes here and everybody is within a tenth of a second of each other. There is just no margin to recover any time lost, especially 20 seconds plus.
Well, it's so critical to try and stay out of trouble as well, isn't it? Like you said, with the safety net of the safety car being removed, having the rug pulled out from under you if you do get it slightly wrong. And around a circuit like this, mention it into La Source, mention it into the Les Commes chicane, even the bus stop in the opening couple of laps can be a little bit frightful when everybody is so congested and the pack converges on each other.
Absolutely. It's going to be chaos into turn one at the Source. I think that's the one thing that we really have to watch and be careful for first lap, trying to get 22 cars around it. But let's get ready to go racing.
Not the longest of runs into La Source, but a big old straight afterwards. For the 6th time this season, we are racing for the Ventauri Pro Series. Gal on the left, Luero on the right. Good start from one of the Mercedes further back. I think that is Gabor Chonstos getting off the grid well. Tap of the back a couple of times, and Gal sent sideways at the apex of La Source. Contact as a Williams goes into the gravel. I think was given a helping hand off the road. Is it Jensen Rose? No, it's Aaron Raminguez, who's dropped to the back of the pack. Gal still getting embroiled here after the tap. I think it was Klaffenburg maybe into the back of the Cadillac through the apex of La Source, sending the pole sitter down to 7th, maybe 6th as he's side by side with Clay heading down the Kemmel straight. For the first time, big contact into the back of Bohm. I think that is Alex Santana, who's made significant contact with a Mercedes. Lots of front wing being thrown up. Gal back through on Clay for P6. That battle will continue down the hill into Rivage. The Cadillac now throws it to the inside of Alex Santana, who was a little bit wobbly in the braking zone though.
He was. He didn't look confident, did he, making his way through that section of corners? But it was very lucky from Conrad Bohm to keep that car pointing in the right direction. We did see Sergio Sobrino disconnecting right at the start, which I think didn't help towards his race start, and obviously running into the gravel right at the opening because he would have been going a lot slower than cars would like. Francesco Largo suffering the same consequence here side by side. It's Clay and Vermont. They try and battle it out as they make their way through the chicane. Clay holds that inside line. Can they hold it in towards Stavolo corner? They're still there. They're still being a pain in Dirk's rear end as they make their way through down towards Blanchimont. I think it's Clay ahead by several thousandths of a second.
Millimetrically perfect between the pair of them. Gal just in front through Blanchimont, gets past Santana, who I think is missing the front right end plate of that Ferrari car. His teammate under pressure from Bohm as well. Diving to the inside goes Clay, wants to try and nab this place from Alex Santana, who's getting it from all angles. Being squeezed in the middle there is Vermont, who loses out to the second Cadillac of Tanash Kokeni. 8th place now for Kokeni moving forward after getting knocked down in Q2. Now having a look to the inside is Vermont, who again, people are trying to lap up and take chunks out of this Racing Bulls car. Vigner in the second Audi now up to P9.
This is looking really interesting in the opening run, and you mentioned Santana, front right end plate damage. You can see it on the Scuderia Ferrari car, and if anything, that's hampering their race start. Up at the front though, keep an eye, Klaffenburg and Beisner going side by side as they run down the Kemmel straight. Here comes Conrad Bohm as well, wanting to get involved, and Klaffenburg dropping so far back, just down that straight alone, didn't have the straight line speed to be able to hold it, and lost not one but 2 places. Beisner and Bohm through, but further back there's still moves being made. Santana still holding onto 6th place, even with that bit of wing damage. The question is, how much of a hindrance are they going to cause to the rest of this field? Sergio Sobrino retires on circuit at the exit of Les Commes chicane.
Not good news at all, but we still see Santana under pressure. Look at Luera out front, who's been given the opportunity to try and scamper off into the distance. This is Fanselter battling with Barrett, who's going for race runs in qualifying. And McLaren holds it around the outside of Pouon. Still got to keep your wits about you into the Fania chicane, ducking, weaving all of them. The Alpine Vaso in front, shaping up for a move on Vermont, who's lost another couple of places, one to Chonstos and one to the other McLaren of Tudor Presscan. Now 1.1 separates Santana and Gal, so Santana's not going to get the blue overtake boost mode, and that could just help Shanika Clay fight their way past the Ferrari car, the wounded Ferrari car.
Starting on the hard compounded tyre as well with Santana, so really not in the place they'd like to be. It's so critical trying to avoid any damage on the opening lap. Here comes Clay, and round the outside goes Victor Vidler as well, trying to make it 3 wide through bus stop chicane. Simply stunning from Victor Vidler, makes their way to 6th. I think Clay tried to make his way through as well. A little bit of contact between the Haas and the Ferrari, and the Ferrari still playing defensive to Chonstos behind. But Cockney as well, we must mention that Cadillac, they also managed to worm their way through. So Clay, whilst they're up 1, they're down 2.
Superb from Villa around the outside. Superb opportunism from Kilkenny as well. Saw Clay and Santana take each other off the road and wide through turn 20. Helped himself down the inside and picked up a couple of places for his troubles. Now trying to attack the Audi of Vidler. Further forward, Bohm through on Beisner for P2. And Kilkenny does make it a Cadillac 5-6 as behind. Still Santana under pressure. Chonstos inside to the outside through turns 5 and 6 into Malmedy turn 7. Vermont on the inside of Santana. Both get out of shape. Invites Pressecan to try and weave his way through the traffic. Varzo down the inside to take 12th place off the hand of the Ferrari. I think Pressecan might be given the cold shoulder through Varzo does. Can't quite sneak past the Racing Bull.
It's good racing, isn't it? In the opening few laps, we see Declan Barrett wanting to make places, starting from the back, of course, after not setting a representative qualifying run. That was Santana running wide through Bourne, as it was Barrett that made their way through up to 13th place. So really finding form at the moment is the right Rebel Racing driver. They make their way in towards the chicane. It's still looking picturesque for lots of our drivers. Cockney 1.2 seconds off the back of Gal further forward, both Cadillacs. I don't think in a working together mood here, as they continue to run down towards Blanchimont for the 3rd time in this race. The question is going to be what happens to Santana, because they're losing positions hand over fist here. That front wing damage is just nerfing them more than they could ever wished for. And starting on the hard compounded tyres, they've got really no option of where to go. Here comes Tudor Prescott in towards the bus stop, but wasn't quite close enough to send it on Dirk this time around.
Bohm has dumped a lot of ERS and successfully got back within the 1 second of Luera, who at one stage had about 1.4 seconds in hand over that group behind. Largo into the pits has disconnected. I wonder if this is to retire, and is, with a second retiree after Sergio Sabrina, winner of round 1 of the season, let's not forget, picked up a couple of points a week ago in Suzuka on their return, and then retiring after 2 laps this week, I think with a game crash that has just ended their chances. So Luera from Bohm from Beisner, and then just behind them you can see Kilkenny batting away. No, that's Klaffenborg and Gal, sorry, in 4th and 5th. Through goes the Cadillac to take that place away from Klaffenborg, who at one stage was in 2nd, maybe just struggling for pace a little bit at this stage. Kilkenny a further 2nd back down the road, then Vidler, Clay, Chonstos, Vermont, and this group of cars just outside the top 10, still scrapping incredibly hard. Santana still with the damage, now 16th, missing that front right end plate, as Ben Sabo-Conye the next to push the Ferrari down yet another spot.
It is really a day to forget for Alex Santana, down to 16th. We must remember he qualified up in 5th, so he's lost 11 positions in just 3.5 laps. Julian Klaffenbach, on the other hand, is up to 5th, where they started, albeit in 4th. They dropped 1 place right from the very get-go. Joe Murphy as well getting past Santana. Murphy being a little bit under the radar over the course of qualifying, of course, was out in Q1 and really hasn't found form so far. Started in 20th and again has made good positions from the opening few laps, but I think a lot of that had to do with the carnage and chaos that elapsed from the likes of Sabrino and Largo, both having game crashes at the earliest convenience. And here comes Shanika Clay down the inside through Blanchimont. That was simply stunning from Clay, getting the move done on Victor Vidler. He's up to 7th and not far off the back of Cockney as well.
Somehow only 1 place up from where Clay started. You feel like Clay's been battling incredibly hard, moving forward, then moving back and moving forward, but still very much in this lead train of cars, because Kilkenny has closed that 1 second gap, was 1.2 seconds between himself and at one stage Gal, now Klaffenborg in the lead Haas car, and Bohm able to keep tabs on Luero out in front, who did have that advantage of 1.4, 1.5 seconds. That has been eradicated though, but Bohm with other things to deal with, because the flash of Scarlett just behind is Lucas Beisner, less than 0.3 off the second of a second off the back of the Mercedes. And then Klaffenborg thinking about a move, shaping up perhaps no backing out of it on the run into the Les Combes chicane. Happy to sit behind Tamas Gal, with Kilkenny a further 2nd behind.
It's hard to think, isn't it, here in Spa, that we're approaching already a quarter of race distance. It seems to go by so fast at this circuit, because there's just so few laps. The circuit is such a fast and flowing one that really promotes some good racing. 22 laps in totality. We're approaching the end of lap 5 already. We're halfway through the 2nd sector. And of course, we are expecting pit stops probably within the next 5 or so laps, if they are starting on the medium compounded tyre. That's a few drivers, and I'll remind you of who started on what compound. Aguero, Kilkenny Vidler and Barrett all starting on the mediums. Largo did start on the hard compound tyres, but his AI pit him off when he did retire. Everybody else starting on the harder compound, which means they can go longer. But for Luero, they've got to try and hope the likes of Barrett and Cockney follow them into pit road. Otherwise, they're going to be in no man's land when they make their way out.
You need a bit of a truce, don't you, trying to work together. And it's almost like a roles reversal here as well. It was Gal who was looking comfortably quicker than Klaffenborg, who had leaped a few places after getting up to second. The contact, the sort of pulse it to Gal, throw down to P7 on the opening lap. Now Klaffenborg cruising back up to the rear of the Cadillac. Kilkenny still in the equation. This is Vaso battling away with Barrett over 12th and 13th. Florian Fanselter in the McLaren closely following this pair into La Source as well at the start of lap number 6. We don't send it down the inside because we've got that long run out of La Source. So up through Eau Rouge and Radion down the Kemmel Straight, where you can make your overtake stick. And this is the closest Bison has been to Bone for a couple of laps. Was hovering around 0.3 of a second. Now pretty much pushing the Mercedes up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion. Bone might go on the offensive here to try and stay in second place. Luero boxing the Mercedes in a little bit. Bison's going to cruise through. Bone in the end, happy to roll the red carpet out for the Scarlet Red Ferrari. Clay also through on Kilkenny just behind. So Charlotte Clay up to P6 now at the expense of the Cadillac of Kilkenny.
Both Cadillacs forming a Haas sandwich at the moment, the proper terminology and that usage, of course, the filling is what you refer to as the sandwich in totality. So Klaffenbach in 5th, Clay in 6th, with Cockney now in 7th. It's still Tamas Gal in 4th. Everybody starts to calm down a bit, haven't they? We've managed to get into the majority of this management phase of the race. We keep an eye here on Tamas Gal on the back of Julian Klaffenbach, and we did see Conrad Bohm there for a moment, thinking about going for a move on Lucas Beisner just in front of him. But of course, we're on lap 6 of 22. We're in that management phase. They want to make sure they can look after the tyres, and they know they can attack slightly later on. This is Dirk Vermont getting the better of Victor Vidler in towards Stavolo corner. And before they could have that incredibly long run down towards the bus stop chicane, the Visa Casa Racing Bull up to 8th place. The Audi demoted to 9th, at least for the time being. The question will come back around in terms of battery. Will jump back up to the front. There's a lot of moves being made here by Tamas Gal. Tried to send a move on Conrad Bohm. Conrad Bohm said no, as they're trying to send a move on Lucas Beisner in towards this chicane of corners. Couldn't quite get it. The inside for the opening became the outside for the second part of the bus stop, and again didn't have the way round. Here's Julian Klaffenbach again making waves whilst the sun shines, and he's up to 4th. Caught Gal napping. That was simply stunning into the source. Damage further back. I don't know if we caught that.
Vermond and Vidler perhaps just running into each other, tripping over each other, not for the first time. Pressecan balks behind the pair of them. Yeah. Nice move there from Klaffenbach to get 4th place back. Yes, it is the Audi of Vidler, missing a substantial amount of front wing. Vermond's off the road as well, through Eau Rouge, through the grass. That might be the end of Vermond's race. Vidler will probably drop back as well. Yes, losing a load of places. Through goes Pressecan, through goes Vaso as well, as does Chonstos, who's fancying picking up 3 places potentially here to the outside. Excellent stuff from Gabor Chonstos to move himself through to position number 8. Pressecan with a wobble coming out of Malmedy, throws him back down a couple of spots, 3 in fact, because his teammate Florian Fanselter all over the back of him. Now challenging the wounded Audi of Vidler will be the outside of No Name corner. There wasn't quite the space left. Contact at the apex, contact at the exit as well, as Fanselter found himself in the gravel, and Pressecan can finally get back through those 2 cars and get himself back inside the top 10.
Certainly can. Klaffenbach again looking for a move on Bohm, who went very defensive in towards Lefania chicane, and the Haas car will have to wait another day if they wish to try and make that move past. Shonika Clay is on, not far off the back of Tamas Gal as they exit out of the chicane and down towards Stavolo and running down towards Blanchimont corner, who's saved more battery at this moment in time. Shonika Clay got enough in his tank as they enter towards lap 8. Haas outfit wanting to rejoin his teammate Julian Klaffenbach just ahead. Again, into the slipstream, into the tow through Blanchimont. They go down towards the bus stop chicane, like an opportunity to send moves down the inside. We might have saw one from Bohm there, but just playing the patient game. They stand in parade formation. Everybody being patient at the moment. We saw a couple of drivers into the pits. Victor Vidler, one of them, wanting to get that front wing repaired. Here's Shonika Clay, more thought about a move on Tamas Gal, who in turn has gone for a move on his teammate Julian Klaffenbach in towards the first corner. Dirk Vermond, 10-second penalty for cutting the corner. That was on their way in towards the pits. Subsequent retirement comes their way.
The 2 Haas cars battling very hard with Gal here, who at one stage, or at this stage, is back up into 4th. Might find themselves down in 6th, depending on the battery levels. Not too much for Clay. Klaffenbach flashing. Luera loses the lead for the first time as Beisner heads on through. Klaffenbach around the outside of the Lecombe chicane through turn 5 does get back up into 4th. But I was going to say, it looked like Luera now just starting to struggle ever so slightly on those medium tyres. and at the start of lap number 8 for the first time hands the lead over. Has led since coming out of turn 1 on the open lap, qualified second. Gal was caught up in a bit of contact, we think, between themselves and Klaffenborg heading through La Source. Pushed Gal down a few spots. Luera took over at the front, but now it is Lucas Beisner leading the way, with still Klaffenborg, Gal, Clay fighting incredibly hard, 4th, 5th and 6th.
Yeah, we're still seeing moves made. Shana Clay now sends a move down the outside as they make their way towards the Fania chicane. The inside will start to open for Clay here, and that's a move that was made in heaven for Shana Clay. Back up to 5th place, past Tamash Gal, and both Hascars once again reunited in 4th and 5th. I believe the highest they've run in any race this season so far. Of course, you remember back to Japan where Shanaka had that early lap 1 contact, was driven through by somewhat ghosted cars, and unfortunately didn't see the end of it, I believe, lap 2. It's a complete night and day difference here as Conrad Bohm goes on Alejandro Luero. I think you're right in saying those medium tyres have started to give up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Red Bull Racing car come into the pits, and there we go, right on cue. Luero in for a fresh set of boots.
I think Clay and Gal were still at each other going through the bus stop. Gal maybe given a little bit of a squeeze out to the outside through turn number 20. Klaffenborg just needs to be careful. A second off the back of Bo. Dominguez retires in the pit lane. That is now 4 that have beaten a retreat away from the sim rig. It is 18 drivers still going. Victor Vidler didn't actually retire, actually, so bit of respect there for Vidler, carrying on despite the damage that was picked up. You could just see over the crest through Rouge and Radyon, Steven Varzo pretty much pushing Chonstos, so we could be trading places there. Varzo giving a squeeze onto the grass there, trying to go the long way round into the Les Comps chicane. Got to be careful because the 2 Cadillacs might just get involved in that battle. Turns to the inside of turn 6. Superbly done from Varzo. Bit of contact as Chonstos was unwilling to give that one up. Now slightly wide through Malbody of 7. Invites Chonstos back down the inside, and there's contact twice. The second one sends Varzo sliding out wide. But I think there's contact and damage. Yes, big damage for Konstos in the Mercedes. Not good news. He's now got to deal with a pair of McLarens.
Yeah, front left damage, and we've seen how damaging that can be to a driver's race so far already here, with a couple of drivers retiring because of it. Prescam through without a second out in towards the Fania at the middle of lap 9. It would be surprising if Florian isn't able to make hay while the sun shines here at the moment, if they can get past Chonstos whilst they've got that damage, and hope that the Mercedes just drops back to play blocker for them as they make their way through Stavolo and down towards Blanchimont once again. We're approaching half-race distance already here, Tom. It has absolutely flown by. Keep an eye on Shanika Clay, who has started to close in to his teammate Julian Klaffenbach. Does he go for a send here towards the bus stop chicane? They are Anchor and Tom close together, but not this time around. Just played patient. Further back, Joe Murphy past Elia Tomasetto in towards the bus stop. That was lovely from the Audi round the outside as we see Declan Barrett retreating into pit road.
That was very, very tight. One step between the Audi and the Aston Martin into turn 1. Is that Fanzelti? Yes, down the inside of Chonstos with the front wing down. We're looking to get that move done quickly, and does so. So it's now the 2 McLarens, 7th and 8th, hot-footing it after the Cadillacs, who are hot-footing it after the 2 Haas cars, because Klaffenborg has dropped out of the 1 second to the group in front. Might be a sitting duck here. His teammate desperately trying to come through. Already does so before we get to the Camel Straight. But look at that Gal trying to force the issue there, trying to find the space. The 2 Haas cars, very clever teamwork there, boxing Gal in as the other Cadillac drops back behind Tudor Pressacan into 7th. Gal was coming like an absolute missile there with the overspeed, but the 2 Haas cars blocking off the road, acting as rolling roadblocks to keep themselves ahead of the Cadillac.
Good moves from both Haas cars, work together like a dream team that they should be operating at. And absolutely no Constructors' Championship, of course, here in the Ventauri Pro Series, but if they want to work together and want the ability to try and defend from their common enemy, there's Tamash Gal at the moment. They have worked together to the nth degree. Here's Steven Varso on the back of Gabor Chonstos. They're under pressure from Bent Sabo-Konyi. At the moment, it's all a case of whether they attack or whether they defend as they make their way through lap 10. So close to half-race distance here, Tom. I wouldn't be surprised if Tamash Kokone into the pits at the end of the next lap, the only driver continuing to run on a set of the medium tyres. They find themselves in 7th, so haven't had a run of bad form, but now they've started to ellipse out of that 1 second mark to Tudor just in front of them.
I'm just falling away. Fanzel to be hoping that the Cadillac does peel off into the pits as he actually moves past Kikeni on the run into the bus stop, and Varzo dives to the inside of Chonstos. They've come to blows once so far. Kikeni does jump into the pits. Chonstos holds off and rebuffs the assault of Varzo through the bus stop. I think just going to get the overtake mode as well, although not 100% sure. Just behind that is, I think that's Jensen Rosen to the outside of Ben Sambo Conley into La Source. Johnston still holds off Varzo. And I think Rosen just squeezed out a little bit through turn 1, but this battle I think is going to ignite down the Kemmel Straight.
Certainly is. Question of who's got better battery. That'll be the one to keep an eye for up at the front as well. Lucas Beisner closing in on Conrad Bohm. Gets the move done. Takes race lead then in towards the Les Combes chicane. Ferrari back on top, at least for the time being. Back to Steven Varso. He's past Gabor Chonstos. Jensen Rosen holding off well from Joe Murphy. Bent's down to 12th. And a lot of moves made on that straight. A lot of battery being burned. We mentioned that in qualifying before the show even started, where it was going to be a case of how much do you save, because there's two incredibly long straights here at Spa. On the run down towards Les Combes and the run down towards the bus stop chicane. Both of them being chicanes, of course. And that does mean heavy braking zones, but you don't want to be at zero by the time you get there, because then you've immediately got to go defensive once again.
So looking at Luer and Kekeni, hold that, because that's Rosen around the outside of Chonstos. That was an opportunistic move. Second part of Pouon. Expertly done as the Williams up into 9th position. The one remaining Williams is Aaron Raminguez, who was squeezed off through turn number 1 on the opening lap into the gravel through La Source, dropped to the back of the pack, didn't manage to recover. Luer at the moment 3 and a bit seconds clear of Kekeni, but Kekeni I think with a 2-lap tyre advantage over the Red Bull, so will be interesting to see how that plays out as the second half of the race almost begins, with Beisner heading into the bus stop to start lap number 12 in about 10 seconds time. Big lockup for Gal, tucked up behind Klaffenburg, who's definitely struggling for a little bit of pace. Clay's burnt a hell of a lot of ERS to get back within 1 second of Beisner and Bohm, leaving his teammates a little bit exposed, with Gal and then the 2 McLarens hot-footing it after Klaffenburg.
Absolutely, this is how it works out at the moment. Bent and Gabor having a good scrap for 11th and 12th respectively. So they make their way through La Source. Elia Tomasetto not far behind Alex Santana. Finally into pit road and getting that front wing replaced. This seems like a long overdue change as Victor Vidler, 10-second penalty for speeding the pit lane. And there's a retirement. Here comes Conrad Bohm, retaking race lead. Just 1 lap after he lost it. Tamas Gal past Julian Klaffenbach in towards Les Combes as well. And Julia Prescan will be wanting to try and get involved in this action, because half a second up the road is Shanika Clay, and there only half a second back from Lucas Beisner. Clay's in contention to maybe take the race lead here for a couple of laps.
Definitely got some really strong pace at the back end of this stint. Gal getting through on Klaffenburg has also brought that group back towards the leading trio. That was Tomasetto getting through on Chonstos, who has that front wing damage. 10 seconds back down the road is Luero. 4 behind the Mercedes have stopped so far. There's been Bohm and Beisner battling away ever since Luero jumped into the pits 3 or 4 laps ago. They've been monopolising first and second for the last few tours of the Spa Grand Prix circuit, Spa-Francorchamps circuit, with Clay cruising up to the back of them in hot pursuit of the Mercedes and the Ferrari. Then it's Gal and Klaffenburg still inside the top 5. Florian Fansfelters lost a lot of time to Tudor Prescan, who is actually putting Klaffenburg under yet more pressure.
At what point do the hard runners pit now? That's the discussion that we're going to have. I'm expecting it to be probably lap 14, go for 8 laps on a set of the mediums. They can, in theory, pit from now if they wish to. Joe Murphy past Jensen Rosen in towards bus stop, took the outside line again, which seems to be favoured with a lot of drivers here at the moment. It's a tempting one to try and send, so no drivers will go defensive to the inside. The outside holds equal weight, and then opens up the inside line for the second half of that bus stop chicane. But expecting those drivers who started on the hards, everybody in the top 13 as it stands, probably will be pitting in the next few laps if they want to hold on to any hope of getting some good race time on the mediums. Here comes Lucas Beisner once again on Conrad Bohm, alongside and ahead before anything can really happen. They are bunny hopping one another, and I wonder if there's a secret element of, you know, I'm not going to fight you on this straight because I know it's not worth it to lose the race time to the drivers behind.
Yeah, happy to trade blows. They're working together. They are against Luera and Kekeni for that matter as well. Still 3 and a bit seconds separating them as Tomasetto picks up the first penalty of the race. 3 seconds for corner cutting. Chonstos just leaking even more time with that front wing damage. Should fall off the back of this snake that goes from Fanselter, whose pace has absolutely collapsed in the last couple of laps. Now over 2 seconds away from the lead group of 6 cars. No damage to report there on the McLaren, on the hard compound tyres that he started the race on, but unable to keep up and cling onto the coattails of that group in front, which is in turn pushing Varzo, Murphy, Rosen and co further away from the lead group.
It is, and it's looking ever more likely that this top 6 have an opportunity to try and break away, because if you're sat there as Tomasz Kokone, maybe Declan Barrett as well, even Alejandro Luero, you'd have been hoping that this pack stayed together so you can basically bunny hop cars one after another after another. But this gap is going to be really well, anticlimactic for them, almost a little bit disheartening for them, because they'll know there'll be a lot of work to do in the second half of this race when these front runners pit, and the opportunity for them to try and jump back forwards is going to look a little bit compromised. Tamas Gal in towards pit road for the first time of the hard tyre runners. Worth mentioning Santana pit 2 laps ago, but that was to do with front wing damage more than anything else. They knew they could get it from that distance. We see Florian as well into pit road, so 2 drivers opting to go at the end of lap 13. I reckon the most will head in at the end of this lap. Here comes Clay though on the back of Bohm as they make their way up Rouge and Radio.
They need to watch, and the hand might be forced here, and the 2 Haas cars, Klaffenburg in particular, may have been left out to dry ever so slightly with that punt pulled by Gal, perhaps a lap earlier than they were expecting. But Bohm moving up to the back of Beisner, rolls reverse from the previous lap. It's deja vu, but this time it's the Mercedes moving forward to take the lead back from Lucas Beisner. Clay happened to sit and play the spectators game in third, from Klaffenburg and Prescan, your top 5, who are broken away from the midfield group, led at the moment by Steven Varzo, with Murphy, Rosen, Sabaconi and Tomasetto, as well as Gabor Chonstos, who's got some damage in that collection of cars. And Gal's been spat out just into the path, in fact just ahead of his teammate Kekeni. And the gap between Luero and Gal only 2.5 seconds now, so Luero on the hard compound tyres is going to get hunted down very, very quickly by the Polster. Big move to the inside, that from Prescan, trying to catch Klaffenburg unawares into the Fanny chicane. Couldn't quite slide the McLaren far enough alongside.
I wonder how much of that was trying to catch him unaware, or maybe just scare him into making a move that he wouldn't traditionally would have made. Klaffenburg, he's an experienced racer. He's not going to fall for a trick like that. It's an old one as old as time. So they make their way down through Blanchimont once again. Surely most will make their way into the pits this time around, as those that are on the mediums are really starting to find time. Luero, 6 laps on the hards. It's a purple middle sector for Tamas Gal as well, so really starting to find form as Gal. Question is going to be everybody into the pits here. Bohm's in, Beisner's in, Clay's in, Prescan's in. Klaffenburg stays out, being the second Haas car. That's surely going to compromise Julian Klaffenburg. Would have been hoping to come in with the majority of this field, but knows he's got to stay out and avoiding the double stack.
That was almost a little bit clumsy there from Beisner and Bohm heading into the pit lane. Beisner was on the outside of Bohm into the bus stop. Almost found themselves unable to get into the pits. Here is Luero, the net race leader, but Gal has taken 1.5 seconds out of the Red Bull on the previous lap. There is the flash of silver as Bohm heads out of the pits behind Gal, I think side by side with Tamas Kekeni. So the 1-lap undercut for Gal has given them the track position. Bohm is through on Kekeni, who now has to deal with Beisner straight out of the pits on a brand new set of mediums. That should be fairly straightforward for the Ferrari. Clay and Prescan hot-footing it after that pair also. And that will be Beisner through on Kekeni for P10 on the road, but they're only a couple of seconds away from Luero.
Everybody from Gabor Chonstos upwards have yet to make their mandatory stop of the afternoon. They all started on the hard compounded tyres. We expect most in at the end of this lap, but of course the undercut, for those that have pitted earlier, will have track position as it stands. There's a lot of work to do if you went in later, but you will be on the beneficial medium tyre for this second stint, which we know is a very good race tyre around here at Spa-Francorchamps. Tamas Gal really has to work hard if they want to try and get within that 1 second marker of Alejandro Luero, who's sat in 7th in net race lead at the moment. Shanika Clay up past Tamas Kokene, up to 11th place. And this opens up the opportunity for him to run forward throughout the rest of this race. We're still expecting the likes of Chonstos, Klaffenburg, Varzo, Murphy, Rosen and Sabo Kyonyi as well in towards the pits at the end of this lap. We'll jump forward, just have a look and see what is going in. Klaffenburg's in, Varzo stays out, and a few other drivers deciding to a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's a real mix. It is the hokey-cokey here in Spa.
Interesting that Varzo and Murphy choose to stay out, so there'll be 6 laps on the medium tyre, providing that they do come in at the end of this one. Chonstos continues onwards as well, so Luero has been caught. Hard tyres for Luero, pitted on lap 8, I believe. Gal and Bohm have only recently been through the pit. Same with Beisner and Clay. Kekeni also on the hard compound tyres, in the same boat as Luero, has the 2 McLarens of Prescan and Fanzelter, and now Julian Klaffenburg to deal with, who comes out in the middle, in fact right at the tail of the lead train of cars. There are the tyre situations. Luero, oldest tyres of everybody that has made a stop so far. 7 laps on the hards. Kekeni with 5, Barrett with 6, and that is Clay making a move on Beisner just in the background into the Lecombe chicane. Prescan through on Kekeni, and that's an important move for Shanika Clay to take that off the hands of the Ferrari.
It's really good form at the moment from Clay. They know what they've got to do. They've got Bohm just in front of them. They managed to have a good scramble with earlier. They played the patient game, but I don't think there'll be much patient play here at the moment with the final few laps of racing to go. Just a reminder, no rain expected here in Spa, as much as we would have liked to see it happen. But Scharnecker knows what they've got to do. Conrad knows what he's got to do. Tamas knows what he's got to do. It's a real case of everybody in their own predicament, everybody in their own race. Julian Klaffenbach up past Tamas Kokine, up to 10th place. Of course, Kokine 6 laps already on the hard compounded tyres. It doesn't seem to be the strategy that's worked out, but they'll know they might have some longevity later in this race. They've got to hope and pray they can stick with this pack by the use of the overtake modes and, of course, the straight line mode activations, the 4 of them in total here at the circuit Spa-Francorchamps. We have ever decreasing laps here in Spa. It's going to be a tough game. Front 2 in.
Beissner under pressure as well. Pressecan all over the back of the Ferrari. Clay having a look to the inside of Bohm as well. Pressecan a long way round. Outside the turn to the inside through the bus stop. Fancies it as well on Scharnecker Clay. And a little bit of contact pushes the McLaren, maybe for getting a bit too greedy into the bus stop, back behind the Ferrari. So not good news there for Pressecan, who for just a moment thought he might be able to pick up a couple of places. Clay with a tight line through La Source gets him right on the coattails of Bohm as well.
It's going to be an interesting run down towards Lake Combe. Can Scharnecker Clay have enough in the tank? Can Tamas Gal have enough in their tank as they run down towards the opening chicane on this circuit alongside? Is Tamas Gal on Alejandro Loero up towards the lead of this race, and same thing from Loero, knows not to fight this. And then there's a moment in time, because they know later in the race is where it's going to matter. Medium tyres on Gal, it's only hard tyres on Loero, and this is going to be the offset that we talked about earlier. Here comes Conrad Bohm trying to send it around the outside as they make their way through Rivage. And no dice this time for Conrad Bohm, but they've got to make a move quick, otherwise equally they're under pressure from Scharnecker Clay.
Yeah, Loera knows the race might come back to them. Bohm has to go defensive because Clay still looking punchy there in the battle for 3rd and 4th. Beissner, Pressecan, Kilkenny getting back past Klaffenbach on the Kemmel straight. Big use of battery there. Loera was a sitting duck. Bohm getting a little bit caught short behind the Red Bull. Clay on the attack. Clay around the outside of 14 and Clay to P3.
Stunning. Simply stunning. You heard him messing around with the gears and the battery deployments. They made their way out down towards No Name corner through the left-hander of Peugeot, and it just worked enough where he got that extra straight line speed. Here comes Bohm back at him though as they make their way down towards Blanchimont corner, inside held by the Mercedes, but didn't have enough left in the tank to try and send it. Good defence from Clay. Defence might turn to attack in towards bus stop, but again not quite close enough, but it almost was a half send on Alejandro Loero. What could have been for a moment there.
6 different cars inside the top 6. You can see the top 9 still in this lead group. Loero getting it from absolutely all angles, knows that there's the possibility that this race could come back to him in the latter stages with the tyre differential strategy-wise, but he's got to try and stay with Tamas Gal. Whether that means dropping a further spot to Scharnecker Clay, who's looking incredibly racy, incredibly punchy in 3rd place. Pocket pincher on Conrad Bohm, daylight robbery. Bohm now has to deal with Beissner, who's blasting the battery to try and pull past the Mercedes, and does so. Bohm is running flat, and Clay doesn't make the move there. That's Pressecan and McLaren very late on the brakes, almost clatters into the back of Bohm, into the Lake Combe chicane. And is this race just starting to fall away from the Mercedes? Wide there goes Joe Murphy, battling away with Sabo Conyi and Stephen Vaso to the inside of Rivage, goes to Pressecan, and that's another spot lost for the Mercedes of Bohm.
Really not looking a good race at the moment for Bohm. Further back, you see Julian Klaffenbach on the back of himself, sends it down the inside of Peugeot, and that was simply elementary from Julian Klaffenbach up to 6th place for themselves. They'll be on the back of Tudor Pressecan at the earliest convenience that they would have liked. We have to keep an eye on the front 3 though. Tamas Gal not running as far away and as free as they would have liked. They've got Alejandro Loero for company. Scharnecker Clay not far back as well. Lucas Beissner, who's done well in this opening stint, but I must admit, some drivers have done incredibly well. Declan Barrett finds himself in 10th. We must remember they started all the way down in 22nd. Refused to set a qualifying lap in the Ventauri Pro Series, but I think we're going to see him move for the lead here. Tries it round the outside of Blanchimont, does Alejandro Loero, but that was a rapidly running out of room for the Red Bull racing car. Here comes Scharnecker Clay, looking potentially for the switchback through bus stop. It's opened up, but he had to go defensive from Beissner as well, in towards La Source. Still the opportunity, running nose to gearbox. He tries it round the outside line. He knows he might have fresher tyres. Here comes Scharnecker Clay, pushed to the extremities of the track limits, but he's up to 2nd, Tom. He does it. He's through on Loero.
That might not be it for Luero. Bison right there as well. Almost squeezed up to the wall there as Luero trying to find the space to maybe have it back at Clay. Gal losing a load of time as well. Might be dropping a couple of places. Look at this, the top four separating. You can put a blanket over them. They're so closely contested. 3 wide with Luero back down to P4. Gal still holds the lead. Along the outside goes Beisner. Clay shuffled down a couple of spots. Now comes Klaffenburg through perhaps on the freshest tyres. Cutting back just across the nose of Pressecan. Clay now down to P5. Beisner to the outside of Rivage. Incredibly close quarters racing in the lead group of cars. Luero now getting bundled out by the 2 Haas cars inside a no-name. Keeps Shanaka Clay at bay, but it's Klaffenburg who picks up the pieces to P3.
Good racing from Klaffenburg. Waited for that opportunity to really open itself up. Judah Prescan's there as well, trying to pick up the pieces that is being left by Shanaka Clay at the moment in towards the Lefania chicane. The opportunities only come a few times left in this race. We've got 3.5 laps of racing to go here in the Ardennes Forest. As we make our way through, Julian Klaffenburg still on the back of Lucas Bison, on the back of Tamas Gal as well, who's got the oldest of the medium compounded tyres in this top 7. The question will be in terms of longevity, can they look after them in towards the bus stop once more? Lucas Beisner opening up the opportunity. Will we see a left or a right move? They move to the left-hand side, as does Alejandro Luero, trying to make moves on Klaffenburg. They are 2 by 2. We are going Noah's Ark style in towards the bus stop chicane. It's Beisner that can't make the move. Luero can't either. And Clay just holding on to 5th as we make our way on to 3 to go.
Top 9 separated by what? A couple of seconds here. Darting all over the place. I think that's Clay to the inside of Luero. Bohm under attack from Kilkenny as well, who fancies his chances of taking 6th place off the hands of Pressecan as well. Bohm, yes, has dropped behind the Cadillac. Still side by side, Clay and Luero. Hard tyres not working for Luero. This is Clay still side by side through Rouge and Radion. Somehow they don't come to blows. They don't end up upside down in the field. Here comes the McLaren of Pressecan to the left-hand side. Kilkenny spotting space. 3 wide between the leaders. Klaffenburg laid on the brakes. I don't think he gets it stopped. Runs off the road, as does Lucas Beisner. Gal down to 2nd. Klaffenburg's going to hand at least one of those places back. Clay still having it out, taking chunks out of Alejandro Luero. Late braking move from Fanzelter. Down the inside of Conrad Bohm as well. All action stuff as we've turned it up to 11. Bohm, I think, still under pressure. Could be falling to the back of the train. Fanzelter desperate in his attempts to try and take 8th position. Outside of Pool on corner now. Bohm later on the brakes. I think he tapped the Cadillac of Kilkenny in front, but keeps it pointing in the right direction as there is Beisner through on Gal.
This is spicing up, isn't it? 2.5 laps to go of racing. We've got 2 Haas cars. We've got a Ferrari, a Red Bull, both McLarens and both Cadillacs as well involved in this scrap for a potentially race lead. Everybody's so close together. Here comes Judah Prescan once again on the back of Alejandro Luero. The hard tyres, you said they didn't work, but they managed to go side by side all the way up through Rouge and Radion, and still for the majority of the Kemmel Straight as well. Luero's on the back of Clay in towards the bus stop chicane. They have just got to play the patient game. Here comes Luero, thought about it. In towards the chicane, trying to catch Clay napping. Klaffenburg gets Gal, or does he? As he tries to go the long way around to the exit of the corner, and does so this time around. Klaffenburg to 2nd, with 2 to go in this Grand Prix. Shanaka Clay looks to the inside, tries to catch Gal napping, has the inside line for Source as they run down towards Rouge and Radion. Doesn't quite have the acceleration, but there was a hope, a little moment of dreams there for Shanaka Clay as he could feel that podium position.
Blink and you'll miss it stuff. Can't take your eyes off this. Top 12 now in this lead train. One McLaren falling backwards. Pressecan under pressure from Kilkenny. What order are we going to be in by the time we hit the brakes, hit the anchors for the Les Comps chicane? We retain the status quo in the leading quintet. Pressecan keeps Kilkenny at bay. Varzo's come out of nowhere to dispossess Fanzelter, dispossess Bohm and move up into 8th position. Bohm might be in danger of falling out of the points-paying positions here with Rosen on the attack as well.
Got to remember, he's got that damage he sustained earlier on the front right end plate. Oh no, he managed to get that repaired. Ignore me completely, everybody. I'm chatting out of my arse. It was Gabor Tronstos, his teammate, that did pick up that damage slightly earlier on. Shanaka Clay still on the back of Tamas Gal, 2.5 tenths or so up to that Cadillac that stands in 3rd. Lucas Beisner will be in a little bit of trouble here because generally in Spa-Francorchamps you do not want to lead on towards this last lap. Of course, battery changes make it a little bit more possible to be able to run this race and to be able to lead through this final lap. But everybody in the top 12, all within 1 second of another top. It's anybody's guess which way this race is going to go. As we run down towards Blanchiment for the penultimate time. Beisner from Klaffenbach, from Gal, from Clay, from Luero, your top 5 at the moment. Here comes Sharnaka Clay really closing in on Tamas Gal in front. They look to go too wide once again. He tries to send it too wide, this time around the outside of the bus stop. Inside tried to go, and Luero once again tried to find and pick his pocket of Sharnaka Clay, and it's not over yet as they run in towards Lesaur, should I say. Beisner under pressure from Julian Klaffenbach, who tries to send it down the inside. Haskar does get the move made. Both Ferrari powered engines running down towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Klaffenbach's through to take race lead, and with 1 to go, Tom, this is going to be all important.
Klaffenbach with the freshest tyres doesn't have the ideal track position here though. Beisner pushing him up the hill. It's going to kick off everybody. Gal still trying to get involved. Spotted the gap. Then it was slammed in his face. He was blocked off by the pair in front of him. Luero back through on the hard compound tyres on Clay. Beisner to the outside takes a trip off the road for the second time in 3 laps. Klaffenbach might be comfortable out in front. Gal still with a nose to the inside of turn number 9. Down the hill they head into Rivage for the last time. Hang it out around the outside for the Ferrari of Beisner. Klaffenbach here maybe with the golden ticket as the fighting goes on over second place.
Lucas Beisner absolutely right. Could have opened up this opportunity for Julian Klaffenbach to run away with it, cutting across Lake Com chicane. That's put Gal in a bit of a difficult position. Luero's still there. The hard tyres really have fired back up for him. Clay might think about a move in towards Lefania chicane, but can't quite get it this time around as they make their way, exiting out of the second sector in towards the final. It's pretty much a straight run down towards the bus stop chicane now for our front runners, and still Alejandro Luero making these hard compounded tyres work. A 10th or so in change. He's got Tamas Gal's number as they make their way through Blanchiment. Thought about the outside move, but can't quite get it this time around.
Klaffenbach looks to have it signed, sealed and delivered. The battle for the podium place is raging on incredibly. Look at the angry stream of cars. Clay under pressure, losing time. Off the road goes Gal, exit stage left into the bus stop. Absolute bedlam going on. Contact, we've got some tyre locking. Damage all over the show. It's Kenny somehow through for second. Yellow flag penalties thrown all over the place. Pressecan comes home in third. What on earth has gone on there? Gal in fourth ahead of Fanselter. The order begins to sort itself out. Beisner to 10th, make that 11th. Clay with penalties as well. I think it was Gal that went straight on across the bus stop and then all hell breaking loose behind. But for Julian Klaffenbach, he was clear as day ahead of that lot, and he managed to avoid the carnage and take home his first win of the season.
I tell you what a chaotic end to that race. By the looks of it, I saw Tamas Gal's car sideways. It was Sharnaka Clay that was trying to make waves, and that just caused a car park at the exit of the bus stop. It's normally a pedestrian car park as everybody's waiting to get on, but in this case it's everybody waiting to get off of the circuit. We're rightly saying Julian Klaffenbach picking up the win, Tamas Kokone in second, Judah Prescan coming home in third, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot for the stewards to do today.
What on earth has gone on there? Ted Caroon, where are you? We need you to have a look. Cleanest driver and driver of the day goes to Tamas Kokeni. Most overtakes for Jensen Rosen. Florian Fanselter with the fastest lap. But the marbles handed out to Julian Klaffenbach with the victory for the Haas team. No Joris Krozen today, but Klaffenbach leading the American outfit. Kokeni, Pressecan, Gal and Fanselter the top 5. Luera to 6th. Chonstos Tomasetta, Santana and Varzo, the first of the 22nd penalty brigade. I agree with Callum. Good luck to the stewards. That's going to be a fun one. Beisner, Clay, Barrett, Rosen, Bowman, Murphy, I think were the finishers. No, Murphy retired. What has gone on? We're going to have to try and get somebody in here to explain this to us, because what occurred was we saw Klaffenbach come through out of the bus stop absolutely fine. And then it was just a sea of cars. Some of them were off on the left. Some of them were sideways. Some of them just came off from the runoff area. I'm just watching this back now. I mean, it's just unbelievable what's happened. Cannot believe what we've seen.
Hold on. I'll do my best here very quickly. You'll have to ignore that. Stream will see our faces for a moment, but I'm going to be able to get something in the background if I just add a display capture. This is from one of the driver's points of view. And this is what they saw. If I just chuck this up very quickly.
Luero might have been backwards as well, potentially.
So if I just transition across to this, and we'll go to here. 1 second. Let us actually be able to see what they're seeing. So this is, from Florian's point of view, heading into the final corner of the final lap. So Alejandro Luero pointing the wrong way. Who's that off the road? That's one of the Audis or the Cadillacs on the left-hand side, just completely off the road.
Gal's all the way to the left, I think.
Yes. Scharneker's in there somewhere. I'm not quite sure.
Everybody's going off here, apart from Kilkenny, who came through in second. You can see, is that Gal there, just in front of Pressacan, perhaps?
Yeah, Gal's in front of Pressacan. Clay's just to his right between him and the Red Bull. And obviously
Luero's
Steven Varso's kind of... Yeah, I don't know what happened to Alejandro Luero there. Not the best of races for them, I would have felt.
If anybody wants to send in their POVs, TK might have to do some editing magic from behind the scenes. But if we can have a bit of a Skypad moment, and we can get Ant in, and we can get Karun in, we can get Ted in, and we can get Bernie in, and we can get the squadron together and have a look at what on earth has occurred on the final lap. I mean, I said it was kicking off. I didn't expect people to literally just be kicking each other out of the way.
No.
I've got a screenshot here as well of, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide coming out of the bus stop.
Where have you seen that one?
I've just got it paused on the on the live stream. Unbelievable scenes, as a wise man once said.
That was a race to remember, I think. And you know what? I'm sure there will be replays on social media of that over the week, because if they don't put replays of that, that is an opportunity well and truly missed from the Ventauri Pro Series. But there was a lot to, I think, try and break down from that one. But I think if you're Tamas Kokkonen, you found yourself in, I think that was about 8th or 9th place, heading into the final 2 corners where it's very hard to make overtakes. And then you manage to pull a move like that, you're going to be very happy with yourself.
So heading into the bus stop, the order was Klaffenburg, Beisner, Gal, Luero, Clay, top 5.
Okay.
Pressacan, Varzo, Kilkenny, Fanselter, Bohm, and then Rosen and Barrett at the back of that train in 11th and 12th. By the time we came out of the chicane, it was obviously Klaffenburg, then Kilkenny, who came through all the madness. I think there's a McLaren of Pressacan potentially that just bundled his way through everybody. Varzo did cross the line in 3rd, but had a 10-second or a 20-second penalty. Bohm, I think, also with a penalty. Yes, Bohm with a penalty as well. I mean, if you can explain that, then you should be a brain surgeon, frankly.
I've got an idea here, Tom. Just bear with me a second, because this is going to be revolutionary. We're going to use our own stream as somewhat of a Skypad. Just hold that thought, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to head... Hopefully this one will have it. If not, there's a different scene. I've got to use this one. Okay, so this is the stream that we had on. Hopefully I can put it up to slightly higher pitch quality than 720. There we go. 1080. So it's in about 0.25 speed. And this is what happened heading in towards the final lap. And I'm going to try and pause it at key moments to see what we saw. So it was a very brave send, I think, here from Tamas Gal, who got it all kinds of wrong heading into the chicane. We saw that, went very deep. And I wonder if this was the catalyst for everything else that happened. Because we then switched across to this view. But my initial thinking is, based on the screenshot that we saw earlier, he's then trying to come back across the track to get an explanation, get back onto the circuit. Because next time we see these cars, they're in a bit of a bundle about now.
So yeah, there's 2 cars.
Oh
dear.
That might do it, because there is a car facing the wrong way. That's one of the Cadillacs. I think that's Tamas Gal. You can see Kokkonen going around the outside, which they set the move up quite nicely. And I think you can see Scharneker's just kind of in the middle, trying to push the Cadillac out the way and just getting held because the car doesn't want to move sideways. Pressacan's done well to almost avoid this as best they can. Bear in mind, Pressacan does come home to finish on the podium here, so just manages to free himself about this moment. But there's only one word that I can really describe this for, and it is clusterfuck.
Up a certain creek without a paddle.
Yes.
I think a lot of these drivers find themselves. Who's that? Is that Bohm off the road on the left? Yes, Bohm trying to avoid everything on the left. Beisner, who I think also cut the chicane on the right-hand side. Klaffenburg with absolutely loving life. There's the pincer. So it's Gal, who is obviously trying to get some semblance of car back on the circuit. Pressacan and then Clay in the middle. Kilkenny around the outside. Luer at this point has already spun. Whether that's from locking the rears, I'm not sure. Bohm exits stage left around the outside. Beisner trying to nip through. The same with Fanselter. You can just see behind the Ferrari as well. I'm not sure where Jensen Rosen is. Is Rosen potentially slamming into the back of...
I think he's about here, behind
Kilkenny on the left?
I think no, that's the Alpine. That's the Alpine of Steven Varso.
Oh, that's Varso.
The Williams, I think, is just tucked behind the Cadillac, and the Haas about here. If you can see my mouse on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, he just tucked in there. You just saw him move to stage left. Someone's wing has got, I think that's one of the Cadillacs.
It's
And
Kenny,
then
yeah.
everyone tries to figure themselves out, and there's Luero with his tail between his legs, I feel.
Oh, dear. Luero drifting around the final course. So it was actually Barrett, the Red Bull, that we saw there coming through. Yeah, I don't know if it was all kicked off by Gal, who seemed to brake too late, plus get on the curb on the left-hand side and just lock all 4 tyres and go straight on. It was like, yeah, I ran out of air then.
Got another point of view, and this is kind of, if not funnier. Hold on. So this is from, I believe, the Cadillac of Tarash Kokone, and this is what they saw heading in towards the final corner.
Nice.
There is literally nowhere for them to go. And yet somehow they've gone from, what's that, 8th place to 2nd in probably less than 100 metres.
Yeah, so Kenny gets all the way over to the right then, and that's how he goes around the outside of everybody. Is that...
So
is Bison behind Luero?
Pardon?
Is Bison just behind Luero, or am I making that up?
I think Bison is behind our camera point of view at the moment.
So Bison,
so we've got both
must be in there
Cadillacs,
somewhere.
both Hasses. Because this is Cadillac.
Can you just see that little bit of red? We've got Luero sideways. Is that Bison also sideways, or is that the runoff?
No idea.
I think it might be the runoff, and then the advertising on the other side. So yeah, Bison must be off to the left somewhere.
I'm trying to see on the track map, but I can't even see him on the leaderboard here. Who knows?
Well, if this was F1, the F1 YouTube channel, then we would have the like they did for Hungary 2021, where we get every single angle to see what's going on. I'd love it if we can try and put something like that together. If the drivers want to get involved in that one and send some POVs in, but unreal ending, and nobody's come to chat to us. I think that's because nobody knows what position they've actually finished in.
Yeah,
haven't heard from Clafferbook either. But hats off to Clafferbook, got it right. Went for that 1 lap extra. We thought they were going to be scuppered a little bit by having to box a lap later than Clay, but came from I think 11th when Clafferbook came out of the pits. That might have been a net 8th or 9th. And to come back through to win that race and then avoid everything from behind, pretty well done.
Did incredibly well, and I think you should be very proud of themselves for what they've managed to accomplish at the end of that race there. Leads them into, I was going to say, what would be the second half of the season, but of course I don't think they're going to be here for the second half of the season. But hey, a win to kind of finish off their appearances. You can't really get better than that.
No, you cannot. And makes the championship interesting because we don't know what the second half is going to look like. What we do know, though, is unfortunately, TK, as we bring up the calendar, here is what
I thought you were going to go into we do know what the calendar is going to look like.
No, I was going to chat about you, but we can talk about the calendar first. The Circuit of the Americas after Bahrain. Then we have our second break week before Jeddah, Mexico City, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi to round out the inaugural season of the Ventauri Pro Series. It's been a lot of fun so far. These last 2 races, actually Austria as well. I think we've had 3 really exciting races. Yes, things haven't always been the cleanest, but we've had some real box office moments, which has been a nice way to pick up a bit of momentum as we head into that second half. But TK, we've done 5 of the 6 races. You're not going to be with us for the rest of the season, unfortunately, but it has been a pleasure, as it always is and always will be in the future. Final summarising words on what we've seen tonight and for the first half of the season?
For the first half of the season, we've seen some fantastic racing. It's really impressed me how the drivers have adapted to the new regulations and how they've adapted to the new cars and having 2 more cars on the grid as well. Tonight, maybe we'll leave that in the past. I think that's probably the best thing to do.
A bit more like real life, though, wasn't it? Where we have the massive smash up and we have the fireworks at the end. And all very exciting stuff. Bahrain in a week's time. Hopefully you can join us for that. But before we head over and out, TK, on the old social medias, on an internet, where can people find you?
At everything at They Call Me TK. Pretty much every single social media on there. Go drop us a follow. It'd be much appreciated. Mr. Wilkinson, where can they check you out, sir?
Wilco.coms on Instagram and TikTok. But it is once again, for everybody that's still here watching the absolute carnage and the anarchy unfold at the end of the race, thank you for hanging out again on this fine Tuesday. I'll be back in a week's time. TK, absolute pleasure having you for the first 6 rounds of the season. And we wish you the best of luck with what will be coming up in the next few weeks.
Thank you very much. Pleasure, as always, is all mine. It's been fantastic to be here.
We will see you in a week's time, Bahrain Grand Prix. If that's anything to go by from the last few races, it's going to be chaos again. But we're all here for it. We'll have a bit of fun, don't we? So we'll see you in 7 days' time, everyone.